All right, welcome to the conversation on the TYT network. We're joined by a great journalist now, David Day, and he's executive editor of the American Prospect. He's also written a book about Wall Street. I say also because he just broke an amazing story about what the banks are doing with your stimulus check, and it has had an effect already. It has led to change, exactly the kind of journalism that we celebrate on the Young Turks. So, David, great to see you again, brother.
Good to see you, sir.
So let's start from the beginning, David. You first started writing about what the banks could do with your stimulus check. So tell us about that, and then we'll talk about which banks responded and what kind of change we got.
Absolutely. So the key thing to know here is that when certain federal benefits come to an individual, like Social Security or veterans benefits or disability payments, those are protected from private debt collectors. They flag the payments. And so that disallows private debt collectors from taking that money to offset any existing debt. And they do that for a good reason, because those benefits are given to people so that they can survive, so that they can eat, so that they can live for the next period of time. These stimulus payments that were approved in the CARES Act were not coded that way. They are listed as tax credits, and tax credits are eligible for private debt collection. And nothing in the law said that these payments could be protected. So Congress did not add that into the equation. And the Treasury Department has the ability under the law to write a rule and say, you know what? Those are survival payments. Those are for food and medicine and necessities for struggling people during a pandemic. We can protect them, but they did not. I obtained audio from a regulatory session between the Treasury Department and bank compliance officers. And what Treasury said on there was, hey, there's nothing in the law that precludes you guys, the banks, from taking that money to offset an existing debt, whether it's a overdrawn account, a negative balance, a consumer loan that the same individual has that they're late on. So really, they gave the green light to banks to use these payments to offset existing debts. And sure enough, that's just what happened.
It is relatively easy to have said in the legislation that the banks cannot do this, but they chose not to do it.
It is easy in the legislation. In fact, debt collection from federal or state agencies is prohibited within the law. Everything but state-supported, state-mandated child support payments. The federal and state agencies who are collecting a debt cannot take these payments. For some reason, Congress did not extend that to private debt collectors. And that includes banks who have debts, outstanding with individual customers. And it includes private debt collectors who might have a garnishment order where they have a judicial ruling that says we can take money out of the bank account of somebody who owes us a debt. So both of those things are actually happening. I've been focusing on what banks are doing, but private debt collectors, as I understand it, are also garnishing the stimulus payments through these garnishment orders.
So, David, then did the banks actually start garnishing the checks and grabbing them before people had a chance to use them?
Well, they sure did. So these CARES Act payments started to come in through direct deposit last week. And I've heard from people with numerous instances of banks who decided to take those to offset negative balances. A lot of these come in through overdraft. You get hit by $35 charges if you're overdrawn on your account. They can really add up. And so this was significant chunks, in some cases, all of these Stimulus Act payments. The perhaps worst story that I heard involved USAA Bank. And USAA is a financial institution that serves veterans and military families. And I heard from a family who the husband was a veteran who was injured while serving. The wife is a daycare teacher who was fired because of the COVID-19 crisis. They have 2 young children. So they were eligible for $3,400 in CARES Act payments. And they had a dispute with USAA about a year ago where they incurred these charges, about $8,000 in charges. They say it was because of fraud on the account. USAA said they could not determine fraud, so they wanted that money. And what happened is the family closed the account and they went to bank somewhere else. And USAA did what they call charge off. They charged off the account. And what that means, it's just a technical term that means we don't expect to ever collect any money off of this debt that we have on the account. We're not going to close it. We'll keep it open in case something happens, but we charged it off. And so because that was the account that was listed in the IRS direct deposit information, the $3,400 went into that USAA account, and USAA took it. And, you can track where the payments are on the IRS website. The couple found that USAA had their money. They called up. They were told that they shouldn't have gotten into debt in the first place. And they were told that what the USAA does is they reduce these balances if new money comes into the account. And they were not an isolated incident. I heard from several USAA members who had this happen to them. And the USAA admitted to me that that was their policy of using these stimulus payments to offset existing debt. So I wrote the story last week about USAA, and there was quite a bit of public outcry, particularly from USAA customers. And within several hours, they decided to reverse their policy and refund everybody who they took payments from, including the couple that I talked about, the disabled veteran and his wife, and the $3,400 they were due.
That is 100% because of your story. It would not have happened without that story. So, but let's talk about the other aspects of what created the pressure for them. Because banks and other powerful interests don't often listen to progressive journalists. Did other veteran groups come in to put pressure on them?
Paul Reichoff's group, Common Defense, did pick this up. I should say that the New York Times also reported out this story and found some USAA members. So there was, several people who were working on this. I thought it was quite brazen that USAA just sort of admitted to me that this is what they were going to do. This was their policy. So it didn't really take much journalism. You just write down what they said and present it to people, and people self-evidently saw it as horrifying. And what I heard the most, through social media and through contacts with me, were people who were 20-year, 25-year, 30-year members of USAA saying, I'm going to cancel my account if you don't turn this around. And I do think that it's not progressive journalism, it's their own customers that get the attention of a bank like USAA.
Right, but if it's not in the media, those people would usually suffer alone, not realizing it's happening to other people and not be able to effectuate change. So now let's talk about other banks. Have other banks also garnished people's stimulus checks?
Yes, absolutely. Another minor success story is a company called Radius Bank. A customer there just made a query asking, what is your policy regarding these payments? And the customer service rep said, yeah, we will reduce them if there's a negative balance on the account. And I asked Radius Bank about it, didn't hear back, wrote the story that Radius Bank was another one that was poised to take these payments. And then Radius Bank got back to me and said they would reverse it, change the policy. US Bank, which is one of the largest in the country, the 5th largest commercial bank in the country, they were taking payments until we contacted them. They reversed it, but in kind of a weird way. They said, well, we will not cause any charges to any accounts for overdraft after passage of the CARES Act. Well, I talked to some people who had overdraft charges prior to that, and they still have not been able to retrieve their money from US Bank, involved with payments that were overdraft fees that were given, before passage of the CARES Act. So this is not just are there other banks? This is still ongoing. And really, those three are the tip of the iceberg. This is really at the discretion of every bank in America. And there are about 4,500 of them. I'm only one guy. I haven't called all of them. But this is still at their discretion. The Treasury has the ability to protect these payments. They have decided not to do so. And so it's every bank for themselves. And they could, decide that nobody's going to catch them, and they can take the reputational risk, and they can just go ahead and do this. I don't know why they would for, a relatively small amount of money in the greater scheme of things for them, but a vital payment and amount of money for an individual. But this appears to still be happening, and it will continue to happen until Congress or the Treasury Department fixes this.
Yeah, well, I know why they do it. It's a culture created by the stock market that you must maximize profit. It's also what fiduciary responsibility, they would say. And so the culture is take everything you can possibly take from your own customers.
Right.
And
the other thing I would say, and this is not a defense of banks because I would never do that, is that, a lot of these systems are automated. So a payment comes into an account that has a negative balance, and they just take the payment. I mean, that's just what's done because the payment isn't flagged. The payment isn't, there's nothing attached to the payment that associates it any differently from a regular tax refund, right? It just comes in from the IRS, just says IRS payment on it, so they reverse it. So it takes some doing for them to get their systems up and running and to realize, oh, these are these stimulus payments. They're supposed to go towards people's food and medicine and necessities, and figure that out. So I'll cut them a little bit of slack. But when they say it's their policy to take this money, that's when I get a little furious about this whole situation, because the couple that lost $3,400 initially from USAA, they said that money was going to rent and that money was going to medicine for their young child. So that's what you're taking out of the hands of people when a bank, decides to take these payments. So I know that your systems are automated. It might be hard on you at first, but either figure it out or pressure Treasury to do the right thing so you're not at risk of being made to look ridiculous by some journalists.
I went to Kentucky Fried Chicken when I first got my license, like 17 years old or 17, 18, whatever it was. And I'm driving, I think, my dad's Oldsmobile. And I parked it in a place where there was two cars next to me, a really tight spot, and a car behind me. I don't even know how I got in there because I'm a terrible driver. Back then I was an even worse driver. And on the roads I'm okay, but in parking spots I have terrible spatial reasoning and I'm a mess. And on my way out, I hit all three cars at once. I broke all records, okay? So I went, as I'm backing out, I went boom, oh and this side hit that car, this side hit this car, and the back hit the third car, okay? And I got stuck. I didn't know how to get out. Like, I went, okay, this, and then I'm like, no, and then, right? And then finally I had to stop, go inside the KFC and go, I'm sorry, I hit a bunch of your cars. They're like, what do you mean a bunch of your cars? I'm like, I don't know.
Wow, there's a B?
Yeah. I'm like, I hit 3 cars. I don't know. So you guys got to come help me, okay? Yeah. Okay, so one, my bad. Really sorry about that. Yeah. Okay, number 2, can someone take my car out? Because I don't want to keep hitting your cars, and I'm incapable of taking it out of this spot.
Now baby move that fat, baby move that fat. We thugged out.
Hi, I'm Brett Ehrlich with Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. This is Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. Hi, Brett Ehrlich here. According to EPA head Scott Pruitt, climate change is not happening. He cited a meme on Facebook he saw. When pressed to back up this source, he said it must be accurate because the watermark said it was made by a scientist. So, your move, Truth.
Do all of you know the Young Turks?
an outlet like yourself that are willing to cover this story from the very beginning and that weren't afraid to say, hey, this is something that is legitimate.
And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important.
Brent Welder is very progressive Democrat. He's a just Democrat, in fact, uncorrupted, not going to take big corporate PAC money. When did you start watching the show and when did you become a member?
So I've been watching for 10 years, an active viewer, but also more importantly, getting out there with causes like Wolfpack.
By the end of our campaign, we had organized about 22,000 individual contributions with an average about $27 a piece. And those initial people were a lot of TYT supporters as well.
In looking at the world in a very different way than corporate media does.
It takes those early people who believe that can really be the seeds of this movement, and that has been the Young Turks.
Thank you, Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks.
Thank you to TYT and all the progressives around the country that have our backs.
You know, the first and only interviews that we had tonight to be with the Young Turks as well, because you guys have been here from the very beginning, and that's what this night is all about.
And I thank Cenk very much for the very good work that he does.
Thank you so much for all in this together, and the people are so powerful, and we're gonna get it done.
Thank you for your constant support.
It's a pleasure to be with rebels. I like that.
For all of the help that you've given to the Just Democrats, to Wolfpack, to help fellow progressives, thank you guys to all the Young Turks members that make it possible.
Hey, this is Edwin. Most of you might recognize me, well, not me, mostly my laugh from the main show.
I mean, it's going to be hard to get the Uygur maneuver on him.
And today, my talent is Rubik's Cubes. You gotta forgive me, it's been at least 5 years since I've competed. So that's why I'm actually going pretty slow. Watch this.
Treasury that is causing the problem in the first place. That's run by Steve Mnuchin, and he is fairly famous for bank fraud, and obviously got to be Treasury Secretary by fighting bank fraud effectively. Oh, no, right, by committing bank fraud. That's right. Got my stories mixed up for a second. So tell us about Mnuchin's backstory, which might inform why he's made this decision.
Well, weirdly, I wrote a book called Fat Cat, the Steve Mnuchin story. I co-wrote it with a writer named Rebecca Burns, and it came out last year. That sort of, prefigured this. Mnuchin, before becoming Treasury Secretary, he bought a failed lender called IndyMac, renamed it One West Bank, and they were one of the most notorious banks during the last economic crisis we had, the foreclosure crisis and the financial crisis. They would foreclose on borrowers who had as little as 27 cents missing in their monthly payment. They foreclosed on 102-year-old widows. They were ruthless and uncompromising, and they committed fraud in the actual conduct of these foreclosures. I reported on a letter that was a memo from the California Attorney General's office that found widespread misconduct in the prosecution of foreclosures by One West Bank, which Mnuchin put together. And the bank was not prosecuted. Kamala Harris was the AG at the time, the Attorney General, chose not to prosecute. But there's pretty hard evidence in this memo of thousands of violations of California foreclosure law, and that's, of course, just California. So, yeah.
A corporate Democrat letting off a Republican banker that donated and is a consistent donor? That seems awfully weird, David. I'm not sure I've ever seen a case like that. All right, in all seriousness, let's talk about that, because it actually does play a role here. If there's no control from the opposing party, from the Democratic Party, of course, bankers who committed fraud become Treasury secretaries, which then allows for banks to take your money without checking with you, because that's what he does for a living. So why didn't Kamala Harris prosecute Steve Mnuchin when it seemed that it was clear fraud that he'd committed?
She's never given a good answer on that. The best answer that she's given is that we looked at the evidence and this was a decision that my office made, as if she had no agency in the decision, like it was the office furniture that made the decision or something. It makes absolutely no sense, but there's never been a satisfactory answer to that. And as a result, as you say, this is someone who could have been disgraced by all the fraud that his bank was committing. Instead, he becomes the Treasury Secretary. My reporting shows that Mnuchin was made aware of this situation in a phone call with Sherrod Brown, who's the chair or the ranking Democrat on the Senate Banking Committee, on April 1st. This is 3 weeks ago, going on 3 weeks ago. That he knew that this was a problem and that this was going to happen. And Mnuchin on that call said he was unaware of this situation at that point, which is a week after the CARES Act passed. So he didn't even know, even though he negotiated the CARES Act, he didn't even know that this was a possibility, and clearly has done nothing about it since. Meanwhile, we have all these stories. Now, the Washington Post reported today that the Treasury Department is now looking into this, even though they knew about it for almost 3 weeks. Clearly, the public pressure is sort of getting to them a little bit. But, these are Mnuchin's friends. Let's face it. The banking industry is people that he associates with. He has, taken a very bank-friendly line while at Treasury in terms of regulations, cutting back on various regulations under the Dodd-Frank law. And, this is just another example of being far more giving and generous to the banks than to the actual people who need these payments.
So I want to stay on the loyal opposition for a second, but I don't want to be too glib. So real quick, I mentioned in passing a donation from Mnuchin to Kamala Harris. Did he donate to Kamala Harris?
Yes, he did. And that was for her first Attorney General campaign, which I believe was in 2010. This memo that I got was, I believe, sometime around 2013, although that number might be wrong. I don't quite remember. But it was in the first term that Mnuchin donated to get Harris into office.
So Kamala Harris right now, one of the top potential picks for Joe Biden for VP if she's on the ticket. Well, there goes any criticism of Steve Mnuchin. I mean, not just in this particular case, David, with this story that you broke, but would the Biden-Harris team have a leg to stand on if they were to criticize how the Treasury has handled any of these bailouts?
Banking in general hasn't exactly been Joe Biden's strong suit. We have a bailout that is being conducted through the Treasury Department and the Federal Reserve that is just absolutely massive. I mean, what are we talking about here? We're talking about $1,200 per person payments to individuals. So that's $1,200. The Treasury Department has put together a $4.5 trillion lending fund. The Federal Reserve has put it together. They're using $450 billion from the Treasury that was approved in the CARES Act to aim that cannon at the largest corporations in America. This is a wildly disproportionate response. There are very few strings attached to that money. And we have individuals fighting with their banks for $1,200 while Boeing or American or United Airlines or some giant hotel chain or some giant restaurant chain is going to walk up to the Federal Reserve, say, put their hand out and get mounds of cash thrown into it at their heart's desire. So the disproportionality of this response is very important. It's worth scrutiny. If you have a Treasury Secretary who once donated to someone on the ticket on the Democratic side, it does tend to hinder what that response can be.
And this is part of why we have government that's out of control, because we have one side that's out of control, another side that institutionally is not used to checking them. So it leaves it up to journalists like David to break the story. I'm glad the New York Times followed up. I'm glad the Washington Post followed up. That doesn't often happen, so it's great that they did. So I guess let's leave it on the last question of what to do going forward. Obviously, pressure Treasury, we get that. But if you're a consumer out there and you got money in Bank of America or wherever it is, how can you make sure that your bank, whichever one it is not going to garnish it?
You should let me know. you should email me. Contact your members of Congress who would want to know about this, and they've obviously been responding to some of their constituents having this happen to them. I believe even Harris has written a letter to Mnuchin about this situation. So, it's recognized that this payment was intended by Congress to go to you. So, contact whoever you can that you think might be able to get the word out about this, because obviously what we've seen is that banks are a bit responsive to pressure on this particular issue.
Everybody check out David's great work at the American Prospect. Support the American Prospect so they could do work like this. And thank you for your excellent reporting on this, David. Really appreciate it.
Okay, Cenk. Thank you very much.
If these companies that open and they have employees come back to work and they get sick, will these companies be liable?
Which companies are you talking about? Under
Any
what?
companies that open, manufacturing, any kind of company that will.
I'll give you an answer to that. We are trying to take liability away from these companies. We are trying to take liability away from these companies. Liability away from these companies. Liability away from these companies. Away from these companies. Away from these companies. Away from these companies. Away from these companies.
Turks, Jake Ugranic sparing with you guys. We've got a new bill. The Senate has passed a new bill. That's breaking news. We'll get to that a little bit later in the program and tell you the details as far as we have them. The Democrats win major concessions. Come on, let's not. Who are we kidding? Okay, but I guess some concessions. Anyway, devil's in the details. So is Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell. Anyway, we'll get to that later. And big show ahead for you guys. Obviously, Donald Trump causing havoc as always. Now, I did want to check in on the thermometer as we do in the beginning of most shows, at least. So this is tyt.com/go. This is our fundraising effort to make sure that the Young Turks remains the light in the darkness and that we press on, if you will. And yesterday we were trying to get to $135,000 before the end of the show, and then we were trying to get to $140,000 before the beginning of today's show. Did we get to either one of those marks, 135 or 140? Let's take a look. Oh, interesting. Somewhere in the middle, $138,782. That's great. I love you guys. Right now, we're still in the matching grant period, so if you put in $28, all of a sudden it's $56. And I'm doing this math every time off the top of my head. Look, I know you're impressed. It's not a big deal. Let's move on. Hashtag would a hero do that kind of math right away off top of his head? I don't know. Only one way to find out. Go to tyt.com/go, put in a weird amount, and see if I can do the math. Okay.
Speaking of weird amounts, yesterday, many donations coming in for $4.20. I think there was actually a $420 donation yesterday. Excellent. In honor of a very special day. Yes. Well, as luck would have it, 421 is my lucky number. So I'm not saying $421 will turn into $842, except I am saying that because it's matching grant time. tyt.com/go. Okay. Hey, maybe we'll get to 143 by the end of the show, and then boom, we'll add $50,000 on top. That's Joe from LA. All of a sudden, we're almost at 200,000, which is what we need at by the end of the month. All right, Anna, let's get started on the news. All right.
There are more important things than living, and that's saving this country for my children and my grandchildren, and saving this country for all of us.
That was Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who apparently hasn't received enough backlash after the first time he encouraged people to risk their lives in order to reopen the economy. During his recent interview with Tucker Carlson, he doubled down, arguing that he was absolutely right, that your life is worth risking, so his stock portfolio will look real good. Take a look.
On this, and I'm thankful that we are now, Tucker, finally beginning to open up Texas and other states because it's been long overdue. You know, they told us, Tucker, to follow the science. Well, what science? I mean, at the end of January, Dr. Fauci, who I have great respect for, said this wasn't a big issue. 3 weeks later, we were going to lose 2 million people. Another few weeks later, it was 1 to 200,000. Now it's under 60,000. And we've had the wrong numbers, the wrong science. And I don't blame them. But let's face reality of where we are. In Texas, we have 29 million people. We've lost 495, and every life is valuable. But 500 people out of 29 million, and we're locked down, and we're crushing the average worker. We're crushing small business. We're crushing the markets. We're crushing this country. And what I said when I was with you that night, there are more important things than living. And that's saving this country for my children and my grandchildren, and saving this country for all of us. And I don't want to die. Nobody wants to die. But man, we got to take some risk and get back in the game and get this country back up and running.
So I always want to respond to these types of arguments with, you should lead by example. So if he genuinely thinks that there are things in life that are more important than life itself, then, I mean, go out there, right? Like, go out there, like, rub up against people, go lick some, like, crosswalk buttons. You know what I mean? Like, show us that it's okay to go out there and, like, literally risk your life just so people can make money, right? And, like, everything that he said there was a lie. And the reason why it's a lie is because Texas does not have widespread testing available. So he doesn't have a handle. He has no idea in regard to how many people have coronavirus. They're unable to track people appropriately. We still don't have a vaccine. So, like, he talks about it as if he's the expert, as if he knows more than the scientists, than the healthcare experts, more than Anthony Fauci. But he doesn't know how many people have coronavirus in his own state. He just wants people to get back to work because in his mind, right, losing your life means nothing. He's not going to risk his life, but you going out there, working again, getting the economy fired up again, means that he's not going to have to worry about any, again, losses in his stock portfolio, any issues with the economy, even though, as we've explained a million times before, Cenk, long term, this is a disastrous idea. It's just going to make this virus drag out longer than it needs to.
I have maybe a slightly more productive suggestion than your idea of licking different traffic signs.
I just want him to lead by example. That's all.
He could actually go and volunteer at hospitals. And I know a lot of the hospitals don't have testing for the people who are staff there. We told you a story of a hospital in Ohio where none of the staff are allowed to be tested. But, you know, Texas doesn't have a lot of tests either. But that's okay, because Dan Patrick says, you know, the stock market's more important than his life. So he could be helping people. It's not just spiteful. He could lead by example and help folks. Now, look, let's get to the substance of his comments. One, he says, you know, what science? Well, the science that told us that social distancing would work, and it has. So it has led to a lower number of deaths, exactly as the scientists said. Now he's saying, goddamn scientists, I can't believe they were right about social distancing. Forget it. Let's not listen to the scientists anymore. I mean, there's this great, great irony that the more we listen to the scientists, less people die. And the less people die, the more angry conservatives get at scientists and say, I thought the number was going to be bigger. We should have never listened to these scientists. Well, if we had not listened to the scientists as you wanted, trust me, the number would have been a lot bigger. I mean, let's look at the number as it stands today. So now we have more than 813,000 cases in America. Again, we lead the world. I think the next 3 or 4 countries combined don't have as many cases as we do. And then we just passed 45,000 deaths. That's 15 9/11s. And Dan Patrick goes on Fox News to say, you see, I told you it was no big deal. Only 15 9/11 worth of dead people in America. So let's reopen the markets. Let's reopen businesses. And implicit in all this is when he says, and this is an amazing quote. You saw it in the video, but it's worth repeating. There are more important things than living. Well, first of all, that seems counterintuitive. Okay. Second of all, what's more important than living? And I get it if you say, hey, I'm going to sacrifice myself for my fellow soldiers and their 3 lives are more important than my 1 life. Hey, I'm going to sacrifice myself for my grandchildren. I'm going to, throw myself on a hand grenade. I get it, right? But I'm going to throw myself on a hand grenade so that the stock market can go up 11%. Yeah, I don't know about that. And second of all, what Dan Patrick is actually saying is, no, not my life. The stock market is more important than your life.
So I want to be clear about something. Every time one of these mouth-breathing Republicans argues that they're pro-life and they want to ban any form of abortion, even in the first trimester, I just want all of you watching this to cite what Dan Patrick said, right? There are more important things than living, right? Because he doesn't actually value life. He doesn't value the lives of others. He puts profit over actual human lives. Now, in the case of abortion, we've talked about this a million times before. I don't agree that a non-viable fetus is the same as a living, breathing human. But they claim that they care about all forms of life, including zygotes, right? But they only cite that when it's convenient for them, when they're trying to win political brownie points with their base or with their constituents. The truth is they don't actually value life. They only pretend to when it's convenient for them to do so. And I want to go back to the testing issue, because Texas is one of the states that really does lag in the number of tests per capita. So the COVID tracking project has broken down the numbers, even, specifically by state. And if you look at Texas specifically, they're testing 6.6 people, or they're administering 6.6 tests per 1,000 individuals, right? 1,000 people. And if you want to compare that to a state that's actually doing better in widespread testing, you can look at New York, where they're doing 32.4 tests per 1,000 people. So Texas is far behind. They don't really have a sense of how widespread this virus is. They don't know how many people have it. And as we know, you can be completely asymptomatic with this virus and you can be spreading it like wildfire. So he's really playing with fire here in encouraging the state to open back up. And unfortunately, you have Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who's just as powerful as the governor in the state of Texas. And then there's the governor, Greg Abbott, who announced initial steps to reopen the Texas economy, including those that will loosen surgery restrictions at medical facilities, allow all retail stores to provide product pickups, and reopen state parks. And also keep in mind that at least 65 Texas counties, as of April 13th, had 5 or fewer tests administered. At least 26 of those counties had 0 tests administered. They just don't care about human lives. They just don't.
As we'll talk about later in the program, and you can always become a member to get the whole program, tyt.com/join. Kentucky now has cases flaring up because some of the protesters thought the restrictions were too much. Oops. So last thing here, Anna, you make a great point about the pro-life position. I had not thought of that. But that leads me to a second thought about it. Maybe if we could prove that the pro-choice position improves the stock market by 5%, we can get all the conservatives to change their so-called pro-life position. They'd be like,
100%, 100%. Yeah, like, if you show that more abortions mean more profits for them, they'll be all for it. Seriously.
Yeah. We could end the abortion debate overnight. And it does 5%, not even need that much. Hey, your stock portfolio is going to go up by 2.5%. All the Lieutenant Governor Dan Patricks in America will be like, oh, yeah, abortion. I mean, really, what's the big deal about abortion? Is it really life anyway? It's not even viable. That's not life. Life isn't worth living anyway. Dude, maybe your life isn't worth living, but for the rest of us, we'd like to stay alive.
It's just these Republicans are horrible. Well, let's move on to one other horrible Republican, and that's Donald Trump, the top dog in disgusting behavior. So in an effort to basically distract Americans from the complete and utter failure that Donald Trump has been in response to the coronavirus, along with everything else in his presidency, he's decided to try to distract people with anti-immigration policy that literally does nothing because immigration is already significantly restricted due to COVID-19. So he first mentioned this during his COVID-19 press conference. Let's hear what he had to say.
The farmers, they've had this for years.
Via Twitter, and he said, in light of the attack from the invisible enemy, as well as the need to protect the jobs of our great American citizens, I will be signing an executive order to temporarily suspend immigration into the United States. Now, his tweet, of course, as always, shocked people in his own administration. They're now scrambling to get an executive order written. But when I say that this doesn't actually do anything, I mean it, because again, immigration has already been severely restricted as a result of this pandemic. And Trump's tweet did not make clear what specific action he would take. He could simply suspend entries for a period of time or cancel a specific program altogether for the year. The Department of Homeland Security is still drafting that executive order, according to 3 people familiar with the situation. One possibility that has been discussed is an exemption for temporary guest workers, including those who work on farms. So right now, the only immigration that the Trump administration is incredibly friendly to is the worker visas, right? They want farmers to be able to find enough employees to harvest the agriculture that they need. And farmers have said, like, we've tried to hire Americans, they refuse to take the job. And so we need these foreign workers in order to run our farms and do our work. And so earlier this month, Trump had a question asked about what he was going to do when it came to foreign workers. And he was incredibly friendly to them, and he'll remain friendly to them because he himself, as a business owner, has taken advantage of low-paid foreign workers. So here's an older video earlier this month where Trump said that he's going to look out for some of these foreign workers.
The farmers, they've had this for years. We want the farmers to be able to get the people that have been working those farms for years, or we're not going to have farms. So they're going to come in, and they're going to be given a certain pass, and we're going to check them very, very closely, especially over the next month. Because remember, after a month or so, I think once this passes, we're not going to have to be, hopefully, worried too much about the virus. But we want them to come in. We're not closing the border so that we can't get any of those people to come in. They've been there for years and years, and I've given the commitment to the farmers they're going to continue to come, or we're not going to have any farmers.
Okay, so I will break down what all of that means and what he's actually going to do. So I love this story because of how nonsensical Trump is in this. Ooh, I know. What's new, right? It's Tuesday. So first of all, that's it. We're doing big restrictions. Did you know that we already have restrictions in travel from Mexico, Canada, Europe, and China? Okay, that's it. New Zealand, you're on the list now. Okay. So, all right. Well, then the number of people that are coming in are not tourists. There's almost no travel all across the world in terms of tourists, students, etc. It's foreign workers, and that's why we're having this conversation about the workers. So, well, actually, you saw that clip, and I'll tell you why he did that. But in early April, the administration had a plan to pause their approval of 35,000 more seasonal worker visas, but they backtracked from it. Now, why did they backtrack from it? Because the Chamber of Commerce called and said, hey, you orange buffoon, you work for us, and those are cheap laborers that we need. So cut it out and give us the visas. We're going to use them to do the farm work. And by the way, if they catch coronavirus, who cares? And Trump's like, oh, great point. Yes, sorry. And that's why you see the video that we just showed you. He's like, otherwise we won't have any farmers. That's why we're doing this. We got to have the farmers. So get a load of this, and I'll quote Politico here. Specifically, the U.S. eased requirements for immigrants to get certain jobs, such as farm workers, landscapers, and crab pickers, aware that certain industries, including those that fill grocery store shelves, could be hurt during the pandemic if they couldn't hire foreign employees. I want you to focus on the beginning of that sentence. The U.S. eased requirements for immigrants to get certain jobs. So while Trump is out there going, me tough on immigrants, me going to ban all immigrants, ooh, in reality, his administration is easing requirements to get into the country. So why does he do that? So that his low information voters go, me like no foreigners, me like Trump. And then he turns to the business community and goes, oh, guys, don't worry about it. I'm not actually going to do that. You do whatever the hell you want. Remember, I work for the elites, You guys give me my campaign donations, and I do whatever the hell you tell me to do. So that's how this game is played.
100%. Donald Trump has been applying to increase the cap on foreign workers coming into the country since the first year of his administration. I mean, he did that. So he loves foreign workers. He has used foreign workers for his own businesses since the beginning of his businesses, right? So it's something that he's taken advantage of. It's something that the Chamber of Commerce wants to maintain. And look, for the Trump voters or supporters who might be watching this video, I just want to make a statement because I think that it's important for you to think about this. So we have already severely restricted foreigners from coming into the country, okay? There's travel bans that impact most countries that people immigrate to the United States from. And your life still sucks. Your life sucks, okay? Because it's not about the immigrants. Your life sucks because this country is run by greed. Your life sucks because Trump doesn't care about you. The people in the administration don't care about you. You're nothing more than a pawn. Like, you're nothing more than something that the Trump administration sees as an easy way to manipulate their way into office. That's it. That's all you are. Your life sucks. So the question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep blaming the most powerless people in the world? Or are you going to take responsibility for your bad decisions in electing that buffoon into office? That's my question.
Yeah. And look, we want to be clear. It's not that just right-wing lives suck. No, where everybody's getting crushed by the same system. So it applies equally to the right wing, the left wing, the moderates. It doesn't matter. Your wages haven't gone up in 45 years. And while Trump talks about building a big, beautiful wall, in reality, temporary worker visas have gone up every single year under Trump. Isn't that amazing? All that talk about, oh my God, I'm going to get tough on immigrants. No, maybe he'll block your relatives from Jamaica or, name any other country, Iran, certainly, right? Or I can't name a European country because then Donald Trump would never do that because he couldn't get his next wife. But anywhere else, he'll block, he might block your family members from coming in, but he is never going to defy the Chamber of Commerce. Those business interests control him completely, just like they do with corporate Democrats, corporate Republicans. And so that's why your wages never go up. That's why this system is completely owned by the corporate donors. And Trump hasn't changed that 1%. In fact, he's amplified it while pretending to be on your side. So look, if you want to say, hey, that makes me feel better, and so my emotions and my feelings matter more than facts, okay, that's up to you. Or you could look up the facts and see, hey, have temporary worker visas actually gone up? They have every year under Trump, because those corporate interests rule us all, and they most certainly rule Donald Trump. So all this huffing and puffing will amount to absolutely nothing.
That's right. We got to take a break, but when we come back, we'll discuss how Donald Trump doesn't actually believe in free markets because he wants to intervene to save the oil industry. We'll be right back.
You're about to watch some behind-the-scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now, these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member. Go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind-the-scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show-like. tyt.com/join, and enjoy this.
You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey. Hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitsing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny. Bye. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes
with Hassan Piker, aka Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there, so I can see Bart.
This is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. I'll refer to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
We're gonna do a little thing we like to call Weekly World News. Weekly World News! I cull stories from around the globe, stories that aren't covered on the main show or aren't covered enough, and I turn it into a 5-question quiz for Dave and Steve. All right, do we have our answers? A from Dave and C from Steve, and the correct answer is B, an oil tanker that sank off the coast of China. Okay, we have one answer of B and one answer of C. What is the correct answer? It is, of course, A, an airplane wing walking stunt gone wrong. Okay, we have an answer of A from Dave and C from Steve. The correct answer is B. We have an answer of B and C. What is the correct answer in true Weekly World News tradition? It's A.
Come on.
Taking the bear out for ice cream.
That can't possibly be true. We're terrible today. Just terrible.
When news is breaking, and when you need Brett Ehrlich, it's time. When news breaks, when news is breaking, and you like... When news is breaking, and you need Brett Ehrlich, it's time for Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. This is Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you guys, and you as well. So let's go to the members' comments because it's part of the show. Ruth Iverson writes in, LOL, Anna's face. That is what makes Cenk's comments so good.
Wait, which face? Like, what was I reacting to? Do you know?
I don't know, but my guess is that face right there, this way. Okay. Anyway, and speaking of which, Anna's Margarita Salt writes in, immigration. Trump playing his greatest hits. Totally. You need a distraction, throw out an immigration bone. John T with a wonderful contribution on YouTube Super Chat saying the work you guys do will resonate the world over. Movements like ours take time. You're only starting to get traction required, but don't ever get discouraged. You are the light in the darkness. You are paramount to every solution. Stay too strong. Thank you, John. Super appreciate that. The contributions to YouTube Super Chat make a huge difference, and so do contributions at tyt.com/go. Let's see if we hit 140. Let's take a quick look there. Oh, almost there, 139,672. So tyt.com/go. Let's see if we can get to 140 by the end of the show. If we're lucky, maybe even 143, which will put us to 193 because of the matching grant. $4.21 from John W. Thanks for all you do. We appreciate it, and I like the amount. And then Annie Hudson gives $7.77 and says, had to close my small business down in New York City for now, and I'm still waiting on unemployment insurance. But you all made me smile right away, so here's lucky number 777. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much, and it's terrible to hear about your business. Thank you for hanging in there. Last two here, because they're so relevant to the news. From Twitter, Jess, hashtag not me, us, writes in, I live in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and yesterday we made national news. A meat packing plant here has an outbreak of COVID-19, and they refuse to tell us how many. 22 have been hospitalized with coronavirus, and the government has called in the CDC to help. So, guys, when they order you back to work, in this case, it's food, so they were already at work. But if Texas, Georgia, et cetera, order other workers back in, you're all in an enclosed space, and it travels through the air. So when somebody at a plant gets it, a lot of people at a plant get it. And so that's what's happening in Green Bay right now. And finally, Kara Curley says, my job finally handed out masks to everyone. We all got 2 fabric masks, but none of my heavily Republican-leaning coworkers are wearing their masks. For God's sake. There's no helping these guys. All right, Anna, back to you.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the next stimulus bill, because there is some movement on that. So Congress has reached a bipartisan deal, specifically the Senate has reached a bipartisan deal to inject more money into small businesses and hospitals. Now, as we have reported earlier, the money that was allocated to help small businesses ran out quickly. And so this legislation totals $484 billion and delivers funding to small businesses and hospitals. According to a summary of the deal, the legislation includes $321 billion for the depleted Paycheck Protection Program. That's the program that's meant to help small businesses, of which $60 billion is set aside for underbanked businesses, a priority for Democrats. Now, again, only $60 billion of that $321 billion is going to go toward underbanked businesses. So there's been an issue with the previous stimulus bill where banks were obviously giving their pre-existing customers preferential treatment. And so I'm concerned that the small portion of this that will be dedicated to the underbanked businesses just isn't enough. But let me give you more details. The deal also includes $60 billion in loans and grants for economic disaster assistance, $75 billion for hospitals, and $25 billion for coronavirus testing. Of that testing money, $11 billion will go to states, and some will also go to the federal government. Now, look, this story broke close to showtime, and we don't have as many specific details as I would like. The legislation still needs to go to the House. It needs to be approved by the House, where there is quite a bit of pushback by progressive lawmakers. But I'll give you those details in just a minute. Cenk, I wanted you to chime in and tell me what you think about this.
Yeah. So good news, bad news. Good news on the small business loans. That's very vital to the economy and needed. Further good news, I think, on the underbanked businesses getting it. Look, that's a situation where Democrats fought for people that are middle class and usually more minority communities. And so it does make a difference if you're a Democrat or a Republican. And the Republicans would have never fought for those people and didn't fight for those people, and the Democrats did. So credit where credit is due. And I'm glad that another good thing is I'm glad that they got money to the hospitals and for testing. My question is, why did the Republicans fight to keep money away from testing? That's unbelievable. Why is that a concession? okay, the Democrats would like to test people, so A, we can keep them alive, but B, so we can reopen the economy, the thing that the Republicans claim that they care most about. Testing is the number one way to reopen the economy. Republicans are like, no way, not going to do it. Why? And then, that's a concession that they get from the Republicans. The Republicans are, fine, I guess we'll do medicine, okay? But you're not getting anything more. We're not giving anything more to the states or anything like that. So obviously the downsides are states get nothing. But to me, the biggest question mark, which is not resolved yet, partly because the House has to vote on it, partly because the reporting on it is so fresh, is there's a reference to the Democrats not being able to stop limits on fossil fuel subsidies. We're not sure what that means yet, but there better not be any fossil fuel subsidies. I don't know why on God's green earth we would ever give a penny to a single oil company. That's insane.
Yeah, to a failing industry, while also denying any investment in, renewable energy, which is where the future is, including where the future jobs are. But, just to speculate about what motivates Republicans, everything they do is based on short-term profits. And so for them, yes, testing has a huge impact on the economy long term, right? Because if you don't get a handle on this virus, then the economic pain is going to drag on. But for Republicans, they're like, no, let's just figure out a way to stimulate the economy right now, put as much money as we can in, first of all, most of the money has gone toward bailing out massive corporations. But now, they're throwing an additional bone to small businesses, which I, didn't think they did a good job with early on with one of the earlier stimulus bills, which is why that money ran out so quickly. They also didn't have the appropriate oversight to ensure that that money was actually going to small businesses that needed that money and deserved that money. But let's go to the House now, because I think that there will likely be pushback by members of the Progressive Caucus. Will their pushback actually be powerful enough or influential enough to get some of the concessions that they want? I don't mean to be pessimistic, but I doubt it. But I still like the fact that they're fighting. And one of the more aggressive fighters is Representative Ocasio-Cortez. Credit where credit is due. She, along with other progressives, put together a press conference to talk about their demands, and they're threatening to vote against this stimulus deal unless they get the concessions they want. Namely, they want many things that actually help individuals, including a federal paycheck guarantee program, hazard pay for frontline workers, which is so important because so many of those essential workers right now are risking their lives in order to do their jobs, right? But they should be paid more than what they're typically paid, considering the enormous amount of stress they're under right now. And so one of the things that Schumer claimed that he was going to fight for was the hazard pay. But he's a senator. It doesn't seem like he fought hard enough. So the monthly payments that they want is $2,000 per month. That would be recurring for about 6 months. And they also want a national moratorium on evictions and foreclosures that impact not only people who live in government housing or have a government loan, but would actually impact every single American because this virus has impacted every single American. And they want protections for everyone, regardless of immigration status. Now, I want to go to this quick video of AOC. This was during her recent Put People First press conference, along with other progressives. And here's what she had to say.
I just think it's important for us to say that incrementalism is not helpful in this moment. It's not helpful for people to say, oh, well, we got something, so we might as well support it. We got a nickel, we got a dime in $1 trillion bill, so a nickel is more than nothing, so we should support it, is unacceptable. Not in my community. A nickel doesn't help. It's like putting a Band-Aid on an enormous wound. It's not going to help us. And the thing is that I would be amenable to accepting this kind of logic if Congress actually was in session and convening. But if you're going to say, and if we're going to say that this new bill is going to give us $5 and then Congress is going to peace out for another month-long recess, I'm here to say that that's not going to help our communities.
I love the fact that she's calling out Pelosi and the whole voice vote that happened with the previous stimulus bill.
Yeah. See, that's what leadership looks like. And if we had Democratic leaders like her, who understood framing, it would make a giant, giant difference. So right now, the way that it's being framed in the press is Republicans had a plan to help small businesses, but Democrats delayed that plan for nearly 2 weeks. That's the Republican framing, and they were largely winning on that framing. Now, the real framing should be, wait, no, Democrats want to put people first, and the right priority for funding should be first actual American citizens, then small businesses, and then large businesses. When in reality, the current funding system is over 90% to giant businesses, then small businesses, and at the very bottom is actual American citizens. Now, if you had that framing where the Democrats are fighting for actual humans and the Republicans are fighting for giant corporations, which is true, then the Democrats would win. They'd win on the bills, they'd win on the policies, and they'd win in the elections. But instead of doing what AOC is doing, the Pelosi's and the Schumers of the world go out there and go, no, don't. We have a deal. We have to support Trump and the Republicans and the deal that we struck with them. And the deal we struck with them is super mediocre at best. And so here's AOC ruining our deal with beloved Republicans and Trump by doing really, really good framing, which also happens to be true.
Yeah. No, I commend AOC for staying true to her values. And look, we covered that story where I was a little concerned, just based on her public rhetoric, was very favorable against Pelosi. I was worried that she was starting to waver when it came to the issues that mattered the most. But you watched that press conference and she did not hold back. And calling out Pelosi, not by name, but you know who she's talking about, regarding the way that they voted on the previous stimulus bill, I think is important. And she's made clear that she was not in favor of that bill because of the corporate bailouts. We need that kind of, you're right, we need that kind of leadership in Congress. And I'm glad that she's a voice of reason in the middle of this pandemic, where it feels like politicians on both sides have used this as an opportunity to redistribute wealth to the top again. So look, that's where we're at.
Facts matter, substance matters, policies matter. So we had a slight disagreement with AOC on strategy, but here she is fighting for the right policies and again being the toughest fighter we have on those. So awesome, love it, and happy to have progressives leading the way in fighting for the average American citizen, that in a democracy should be what every representative does. Unfortunately, it's very rare. That's why it's a fresh of breath air when you see not only AOC, but others that participate in that conference, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and Ayanna Pressley do that so effectively.
So when we come back from the break, I do want to discuss the way the Trump administration plans on helping fossil fuel companies stay afloat. It's absolutely ridiculous. We'll have that story and more when we return.
Many of you already know that the TYT Army has been officially organizing for the past year, and the Army is constantly growing, too strong. They're making decisions on which candidates and elected officials to help, and always coming up with ways to inform people about progressive policies. I love that. Now, we want to give a huge shout out to some special volunteers and highlight accomplishments of our TYT Army. You're making all the difference. In Ohio, after Captain Aysun Gerkoğlu organized her first meetup to bring TYT supporters together, she then organized for them to help candidate Morgan Harper, who is their local Just Democrat, who has, of course, signed the Progressive Economic Pledge. Look, guys, this is how it's done. I love that they're doing this. So here's what Aysun had to say. We had an event at Justice Democrat Morgan Harper's headquarters in Columbus. Thanks to support from our TYT Army national team, we did a text bank that helped us get 4 more volunteers to attend. And they're considering canvassing too. So exciting to get people more involved by planning these events. Thank you, Aysun and the team, for getting out there and making a real difference. Every single person matters. You are TYT. To learn more about the TYT Army and how you can help from home or even start your own team, head to tyt.com/army. And PS, check your spam folder for lost emails to stay up to date with our events.
life did I think I would like to see a dictator. But if there's going to be one, I want it to be Trump.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Where's the line? We've crossed every line you can imagine.
We are a socialist country. It's socialism for the rich.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
You don't have to know the truth, just believe what they tell you.
There is no bounds to their monstrous hypocrisy. Tick-tock. I think we're gonna win the Senate in 2020. And I think we're gonna have the House, and I think we're gonna have the presidency. Tick-tock.
And in 2020, we're going to clean your clock, and we're gonna run you out of town, and we're gonna have an actual democracy in this country.
November of 2020 could also be potentially the greatest day of our lives. Let us whisper of a dream.
With Doe, you can turn your passions into potential investment opportunities. Whether it's cannabis, fashion, travel, video games, or anything in between, you tell them what you're interested in, and they'll help you uncover the investment potential. Doe provides your daily one-stop investment shop with lists of companies that relate to your personal interests, relevant news, and your favorite stocks and videos that unpack today's money-moving headlines in under 3 minutes. Go to doe.com/TYT.
Today, terrible day for the internet, terrible day for America. The internet as we know it is not going to exist anymore.
A real dark day for information, and yet another way that they're bleeding out the democracy.
We're now going to have these gatekeepers of information deciding what we can and can't see, and that's what scares me the most.
Whether you're conservative or progressive or anywhere in the middle, this is the one thing we should all agree to. Protect the internet, because the establishment is coming for it. Don't let them destroy the internet.
All right, we're back on Young Turks. Tomorrow's Earth Day, which is great. It's actually the 50th anniversary. So we're doing a special with, of course, our top expert on it, John Iderola. So tune in to youtube.com/TYT or TYT.com at 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow or 4 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you check out a special programming, okay? You could also tune in on Roku, Pluto TV, Comcast, Xfinity X1, and Flex, Zumo, YouTube TV, all at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Also, don't forget, speaking of the Earth, if you sign up at aspiration.com/TYT, we plant 10 trees for every sign up, and that produces enough oxygen for 40 people, which is amazing and great. And every time you use your aspiration card, you can also plant more trees. So save the Earth in that way and get a great financial institution. Aspiration.com/TYT. Oddly Magical Brandy writes in, what's going to happen if we have a major natural disaster? A major earthquake would be bad, but isn't that likely? What's certain is fire season. As we're heading into May, imagine having a fire like the one that destroyed Paradise under a stay-at-home order. And I got to be honest, Brandy, I hadn't even thought of that. And yes, if we have fires where people have to evacuate together and then get sheltered together, that's disaster on top of disaster, literally. And then Top Cat writes in, personally, I think that the New Zealand Prime Minister is a great example of what leadership looks like or would look like under AOC, i.e. great. Yes, she is great, Prime Minister of New Zealand. Gene Iwanski Jr. and Chuckman102, thank you so much, guys, for using YouTube Super Chat. We appreciate it. And the Mathematician and I'm the Derpy Dragon and others on Twitter. Yes, good points about how progressives put pressure on AOC, and perhaps that helped. And others also saying that now she's being primary, now in this case from the right, but maybe that's helping as well. It's hard to determine that, but the most important thing is credit where credit is due. AOC is doing a great job in fighting for the right things in these legislations and framing it right as well. All right, Anna, back to you.
All right. Well, the oil industry is suffering, and AOC basically posted a celebratory tweet in regard to what we're seeing. It's a decrease in demand for oil, and we have an oversupply of fossil fuels. And so as a result, the cost per barrel has gone down significantly, in some cases, even in the negative numbers. So in a now deleted tweet, AOC wrote, "You absolutely love to see it. This, along with record low interest rates, mean it's the right time for a worker-led mass investment in green infrastructure to save our planet." And I don't know why she deleted that, because she's absolutely right. I mean, if we want to think about the future of jobs in this country, something that's more sustainable, we would invest in renewable energy. We would adapt to a changing environment, not only for the economy, but more importantly, to be able to actually live on this planet, which fossil fuels obviously increasingly make it difficult to do so. So she later deleted it because a bunch of Republicans started attacking her like they typically do. This is a tweet by Republican Congressman Jody Arrington. He says, "I don't love to see it. I don't love to see oil and gas workers and their rural communities suffering as a result of this devastating price collapse. Places like West Texas and hardworking men and women in the oil patch power the bright lights of New York City, including the hospitals." But Arrington knows that those jobs, much like the coal jobs, are going to be antiquated, extinct, whatever you want to say, in the coming years. So if he actually cares about protecting those hardworking men and women, he would actually advocate for investing in renewable energy. But nonetheless, since the fossil fuel industry is really struggling right now, Donald Trump wants to come in and save the day. I'll give you the details on that in just a second. But Cenk, I'd like you to jump in first.
Yeah. So first of all, progressives have a plan that's in the Green New Deal for how to help and transition workers in industries that are hurting us. So whether it's coal or oil or the insurance industry. It's not like they didn't think of that. Of course, they thought of that. Their top priorities, American workers. So they have a great plan for that. And the subsidies to renewable energies would help transition those workers and maybe even increase their pay. So secondly, look, these oil companies are struggling now, but in the past, they were the most profitable companies in the world. And I don't mean 100 years ago. I mean, like a couple of years ago. Now the tech companies are the most profitable, but oil companies have been in the top 10 most profitable in the world for decade after decade after decade. They took home all of those billions of dollars in profits. That's gone. Now they turn around and go, "I want money from the taxpayer. I'm in trouble." Well, okay, why don't you go get those billions of dollars stored in your house, and then maybe we could have a conversation. "Oh, no, I get it. You want socialism for the rich." So when you were making money and you were profitable, "Oh, capitalism, baby, don't regulate me. Oh, it's good, man. Capitalism is awesome. Yeah. Oh, I'm not making money now. Oh, please, I want socialism. I want socialism. Please, taxpayers, bail me out." My answer to that is hell to the no effing way. And we should not give one red cent to these guys.
So as we know, the only thing that Donald Trump cares about is the stock market. It's what he cites when he wants to mention his so-called accomplishments as president. And so the fossil fuel industry taking a hit as a result of COVID-19 is dragging the stock market down today. And so, and has been for a few days now. And so Trump, during one of his recent press conferences, floated a plan or an idea to save the industry. Let's take a look.
Low price of oil that you've been seeing, it's at a level that's very interesting to a lot of people. We're filling up our national petroleum reserves, the strategic reserves, and we're looking to put as much as 75 million barrels into the reserves themselves. That would top it out. That would be first time in a long time it's been topped out. We'd get it for the right price. You know the price of oil right now, don't you?
I do. Do you know the price of oil?
I actually do.
It's negative $37.
Of course, nobody's ever heard of negative oil before, but it's for a short term.
Are you asking for that funding?
At a minimum,
part of the
we'll let
PPP
people store. So we'll store it. We'll use it as storage. and charge for it. If we could buy it for nothing, we're going to take everything we can get. The only thing I like better than that is where they pay you to take the oil. But that's a short-term squeeze. You understand that. So I don't think you're going to see that. But no, we'd like to have Congress. This is a great time to buy oil.
Okay, so what he's proposing is that the U.S. government purchase oil and then keep it in the reserves that the government has. So it has the capacity for 797 million barrels. And as of March of this year, the inventory was already at 635 million barrels. So there is some, suspicion that he's going to have the government rent more space in order to purchase more oil because there's an abundance of supply.
Yeah. So look, this is a form of a subsidy because he's buying oil that they cannot sell in the open market and oil that we don't need because we have a massive amount of reserves, as Anna just pointed out to you. So it's a way of helping his donors who are oil executives. And so that's how we get robbed. If there's nothing you can do about what Trump can do through an executive order. But if they try to pass any legislation, any Democrat that votes for 1 penny going to the oil companies should be primaried, should be thrown out of office. And I'm not telling it to you in hindsight, I'm telling it to you ahead of time. So don't give me this crap later about, no, you got to support every Democrat. No, I'm telling you ahead of time. They should not support Donald Trump. If you're get animated about fighting Donald Trump, then don't agree with him on subsidizing oil companies. You know, one of the things that Trump's doing right now, his administration, they're considering letting the coal companies get rid of a tax that would help coal miners that have black lung disease. Then they pretend they're doing it for the workers. No, they can let the workers die from black lung disease and catch a tax break because they found a good opportunity during a crisis. That's how these guys operate. It's never for your benefit.
Never. All right, one final story for you. So Kentucky is unfortunately one of the states where we're seeing all sorts of anti-lockdown protests. People want to go out there and work, even though we're still grappling with this coronavirus pandemic. However, luckily, the governor of Kentucky, who's a Democrat, Governor Andy Beshear, has announced that he will not reopen the economic sectors or relax restrictions within the state because there has been a significant uptick in the number of coronavirus cases in the state. Beshear announced in a press conference Sunday that 273 new cases of COVID-19 had emerged, the highest Beshear has announced so far. That brings the current state case count to 2,960 per the Kentucky Department of Health, and 148 fatalities have been reported. But I also want to be clear that Kentucky happens to be one of the states that has fallen behind in testing considerably. So the total tests completed in Kentucky as of April 13th was 5.8 per 1,000 people. That's the 12th lowest of all 50 states. And so I say that because even though the numbers are higher, now, the truth is we still don't have a real sense of how many people are really infected with this virus. It could be much higher.
So we don't know that any of the protesters in Kentucky got coronavirus, but there are these protesters going out there going, we got to open up. Meanwhile, coronavirus is flaring up in Kentucky. And so this is, by the way, exactly what we told you. Why? Because we actually listened to scientists. And the scientists said that what we're worried about is this stuff travels, so obviously through humans, and so we're worried that it'll flare up in the middle of the country after it hits the coast. And here we are. And it's ironically the middle of the country that's most agitating to reopen right now when they're potentially in the greatest danger. Whereas if we have tons of testing, we can isolate the people that have the issues, quarantine them, and reopen the country quicker. But again, the right wing doesn't understand any of that. But the thing is, the only time the conservatives ever care is when it happens to them. So maybe if there's flare up in places like Kentucky, they might go, oh my God, it's real. I thought it was a hoax. Turns out Bobby Sue has it. So now it's real all of a sudden.
I don't know. I mean, reason and logic doesn't seem to apply to most people these days, and it's devastating. And by the way, Attorney General William Barr has mentioned that he could pursue legal action against states that the Trump administration deems going too far in their restrictions. He said, quote, "We're looking carefully at a number of these rules that are being put into place. And if we think one goes too far, we initially try to jawbone the governors into rolling them back or adjusting them. And if they're not, and people bring lawsuits, we file statement of interest and side with the plaintiffs."
Crazy. Can I just say, one family in Alabama right now has 9 cases of coronavirus and 3 dead in just one family in Alabama. Listen to the doctors. For God's sake, stay safe.
All right. The post game is next. Become a member, support the show. Go to tyt.com/join. For everyone else, have an awesome night.
All right, welcome to Old School. Cenk Uygur, Ben Mangos. Look at this. Kate Flannery's here. How fun is that?
It's going to make an entrance. I blew it.
There you are. Always make an entrance. All right, so you guys know Kate. Among the things she's done, Meredith on The Office, Carol on OK, KO, Let's Be Heroes, Brooklyn 999, Comedy Central's Another Period. It goes on, Dancing with the Stars.
It goes on and on. That's
yeah.
You can't stop it.
So I want to ask Kate about Dancing with the Stars tour that she was on in a second. But first, of course, Old School brought to you by the thugs at shoptyt.com. And since we're recording this on April 20th, i.e. 420, I'm wearing this shirt. Yes, that's at shoptyt.com. As Trump would say, it's it looks innocent, but it can be quite complicated, especially depending on the form that you have. But anyway, happy 420 or 421 or whenever you guys are watching this.
Your Trump impersonation is not bad. It is really an impersonation of Alec Baldwin doing Trump, but that's also not bad. Like any way you slice it, it's not bad.
A, thank you. B, it is literally an impersonation of Alec Baldwin doing Donald Trump.
It's spot on. Yeah.
Steal from the best. Steal from the best.
That's right. Steal
Exactly.
from the master. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Why bother doing your own? He already did a good one.
Totally.
What am I, a sucker? Anyway, so this period is a fascinating period, these couple of days here. 420 is for weed. 422 is Earth Day. And is 421 or 420 Hitler's birthday?
No, today. Hitler's birthday. Yeah, I think he'd be 132 today. I think it was 1888. I'll check with the guys in the meeting later tonight, but I'm pretty sure it's 132. Those boys are fun. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
they just got back from running over a nurse, so it's going to be a big night.
Which they almost literally did.
Yeah, I mean, she was in the way. She was blocking traffic. So what are you supposed to do?
Yeah. So that actually leads me to, I guess, one of my first topics, which is what jokes are permissible. Because Ben, nice job on the Third Reich joke to start the show. But anyway, so I was joking around on Twitter, and Kate, since you're the professional, I'll run it by you. No, not on the quality of the joke. I just don't like people. I don't know if you're supposed to be humorless during tragedies or not. Like I joked around that Dr. Oz said that kids should go back to school even if it kills 2 to 3% of them. And I know why. All of us parents know why, because he's been homeschooling the kids, and at any cost, send them back to school. I think every parent would agree. And then I said, #pay teachers more. And of course, the instant reaction, as expected, was, Jake, really, it's not worth the 2 to 3% of kids dying. And, I'm surprised you'd make a irresponsible comment like that. And homeschooling is not that bad. I'm like,
see, this goes back to the steal from the best thing. You want to steal from the masters, but you blew it because Dr. Oz got a lot of heat, so you're going to get a lot of heat. The heat is on.
I think that it. First of all, this is a defense you don't often hear. In Dr. Oz's defense, I think he was just talking about 2 to 3% of their grandparents.
No, I know. I actually clarified that on the show, and then Anna hit me with a Turkish bias that I was defending him because he's one of the other 3 Turkish Americans in the country.
But 2 to 3%. So, it's like a couple million grandparents or 10 million. I have no idea, because I have no idea how many old people there are in the country. Seems like a lot. It was unthinkable. And then 2 days later, he got bailed out by Dr. Phil. Last week was a terrible week for Oprah.
Yeah.
Ben, I don't know if that's the right time for a joke like this.
Sorry, I apologize. Yeah.
Very serious. And by the way, Dr. Phil, after bailing out Dr. Oz and then being left out of the game of musical chairs, is like, can I get a Dr. Drew in here? Where's Dr. Drew?
Does Oprah have a role with Dr. Drew or no?
No.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Rachel Ray is in the Oprah corral, but
she didn't do anything terrible, right?
Not yet.
Yeah, the one that most disturbs me, and I suspect, Cenk, that this might be true of you too, is Dr. Drew. And I guess I just missed that he went a little crazy and at least by 2016, it was exposed. You know, he was diagnosing Hillary's brain injury on CNN. That's, I guess, what cost him his gig at CNN. But Dr. Drew is and he's been on the Turks. And I got a couple of friends who are associated with Adam Carolla who adore Dr. Drew.
Sure.
And we met him and we like him, right, Jack? Personally.
Yeah.
Right. And he is an enormously talented guy. I mean, Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz are talented in that they can talk their way out of a situation, but they're obviously hucksters. Right. That was clear from day one. Dr. Drew, super talented broadcaster, really talented, gifted even. Sure. And I thought was looking to help people. Right.
Yeah. He doesn't need to be called doctor. I'm just saying, like, he could just be a broadcaster. Like,
that's right. He could just be a guy who he was like, yeah, I'm Drew, whatever. What's his last name?
Pinsky.
This is the Drew Pinsky show. Yeah, actually, and he'd say at times, look, I'm a medical doctor. I can tell you, but he didn't. Right. He didn't have to be catchy. Like he didn't have to sell used cars. He could have worked at a Lexus dealership.
You know what I just realized? Lawyers are screwed by having the JD at the end rather than the front, right? There's nothing to put in the front of a lawyer. So like the doctors get to brag all the time, like Dr. Drew here. Like, whereas if you had to say Drew Pinsky, MD, people would be like, you're kind of a dick, right?
That's right. That's right.
Right. So Jake Uger, JD, I've never said because I don't like being punched in the face.
Right. But nice work there, letting us, reminding us all that you were a lawyer. That was good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's the whole point of this whole thing. And so, but lawyers don't have anything in the front, so we can't be like, oh, whatever.
Let's make it up. I mean, this is what we do partly on Old School, Kate, in case you don't know. We've come up with, we invented, what was it? What was our quotient last time? Instead of intelligence quotient, what was it? We didn't really name it. We just came up with EQ.
Yeah, but EQ is actually real.
I know it's real, but we redid it.
Yeah.
We specified it just to your behavior of following the rules of a pandemic. And whether you understand how to navigate civil society. But we've invented many words on Old School, as Cenk has pointed out. There's an entire book of words that we invented on Old School. We just need to come up with the thing that you put in front of a lawyer.
What about counsel? Can't we call you counsel? Counsel?
Yeah, it's got to be shorter.
It's got to be shorter.
With it. Yeah, but like
syllables, no counsel.
Yeah.
I think it has to be new. Too.
Okay.
Like council has this, council would have been good a couple hundred years ago, but that ship is sunk. So I think that we have to think of something, just two little letters and a thing, and you could say, something that would just be kind of catchy. That's as sort of robust as doctor.
Yeah, Counsel Uger makes you sound like you're either from the 1800s or from Star Trek.
That's what I was going to say. It suggests that you're from another time.
Well, I just watched The Mandalorian and I loved it, so that'd be funny.
Okay.
But it does. It sounds like a Mandalorian counselor. But we'll like CR could be the thing. Just counselor from counsel, and R you're just stealing from doctor. But then we have to figure out what it is.
Coctor.
Sure. Very good. Yeah.
I think I got to work on that one, right?
I think it's fine. It's fine.
They are lawyers. I mean,
yeah, there's an R at the end. That's true. Yeah. I don't know.
All right, we'll work on it. All right, Kate. So when you're on, and we'll have more COVID etiquette later in the show. I've got a whole new chapter for you guys. But Kate, when you're on tour with Dancing with the Stars, what do you guys do? What happens on the tour?
The show's about an hour and 45 minutes, and it's what we do is we sell out because it's packed. They have a huge, crazy fan base that throws a lot of money at their shows. I mean, because there's a meet and greet they could pay for, so we did meet and greets before every show. It was usually like 100 people, and then the shows would be a minimum of 2,500 people, packed.
Wow. And what are they paying to get in?
I'm guessing. I'm not sure, but I think about $200, and I think the meet and greet is like $500. It's a lot.
Right, it's a ton of money.
Yeah, and some people went to different cities as if the show was going to change or something.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's not just people from your year. It's like a tour of greats.
I was always celebrity. They only have one celebrity at a time, but I, for some reason, got most of the tour. I got 54 of the 80 gigs, but I only got to do 43 of the 54 because we got shut down.
Right. So you did 43, so you got 80%.
Yeah, I was pretty good, actually. Yeah, I only missed 11. That's not bad. I'm actually very pleased. And I was supposed to have a little break for 2 weeks, and so I was gone when they were in New Orleans. So I was really happy not to be. New Orleans,
that's
not to be,
right. A break. Yeah.
It was beginning of March. It was starting to get really scary.
Yeah, no. People got coronavirus in New Orleans in the beginning of March.
Yes.
I have stories about that.
Just a few days with it, but they would tell people not to touch us or hug us or shake our hands, and people couldn't help themselves at the meet and greet. They'd be like, nah, and crying, and you're like, oh my God.
Well, it's a little like paying $500 to go to a meet and greet and being told that you can neither meet nor greet, which I think is could frustrate some patrons.
I gave a lot of eye contact.
Yeah, right, sure, right.
Hey, what's up? Hey.
Yeah, I always remember that David Copperfield meet and greet that my wife made me go to.
That was the best. Such a good one.
That's my favorite beginning of any sentence. I love this. Okay.
I remember, not coronavirus or anything. I went to go shake his hand. He starts to shake my hand, and he looks at me like, wait, I know you, and I hate you. Well, I never found out why. I never found out if I'm right. But it was not an unclear look.
Didn't you try to cut the line, at the meet and greet with the Copperfield meet and greet? There was Wendy did something or you did something that was a good.
No. But I love the idea of throwing your weight around.
Totally.
For a meet and greet. Hey guys, please.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah, I should. Among the people who paid hundreds of dollars for this. I should really step to the front because I'm kind of an internet personality.
He doesn't like Turkish people, clearly.
Yeah. By the way, thank you for reminding me, Kate. Dr. Oz, an actual doctor, a very successful heart surgeon, and it's not just my Turkish bias. In fact, Turkish people I know think, what a shame. He was such a good heart doctor. Why, he does embarrassing talk show. This is, by the way, pre being a right winger, pre any controversies. And they would say it to me, full well knowing I do a talk show.
Yeah, I don't see that sentence working with our lawyer word. Oh my God. Such a good doctor. Now he just do talk show. What a shame.
By the way, one of my good friends, who's Turkish, his last name, well, as you'll see, obviously, his last name is Kokturk.
Sure, that's a good name. Yeah.
And in Turkish, it really
you have to. Sorry, just real quick. If that's your name, that guy cannot immigrate to the States or Canada or Great Britain. Like, he can only stay in a place where English is at best the second language.
Yeah. Too late.
Definitely after seventh grade. You just can't come before seventh grade because you're.
That's right. Oh, totally. Oh, you're doomed. Doomed.
Yeah.
High school, probably forget it. Just college.
Yeah. Well, he f***ed up. He's already here. And he was here pre-7th grade. And funny enough, he became a doctor. So he's now Dr. Kokturk. So almost Dr. Kokturk.
Wow, that sounds like a fantastic TV show. I would watch Dr. Kokturk. Skinamax? On Skinamax?
Sure, right, yeah.
If you saw Dr. Kokturk on Cinemax, there's no one in America who's flipping that dial. You're staying right there.
It's better than
everybody knows it.
What is this?
I change the show, but I can't help it. I land on it, and I just can't. Yeah. Wait to see if she gets rid of it.
I like it. It just reminds me that if you stumble on a show that you've never knew that existed, this has happened a few times. It happens less and less because now, channel surfing is a thing of the past. It was such a huge part of all of our lives. I'm sure it's how you watch TV. You just flipped around. And now occasionally you'll come upon a show, if you ever are in that situation, back in the old days when people used to go to hotels sometimes and you have to flick around the channels, and you'll come upon something and it'll say season 17, episode 14. And it's a show you've never heard of. Like, season 17? It's been on since 2002.
Yeah.
No idea. Never heard of it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's happened.
What on God's green earth has Dr. Cochter been doing for all those seasons?
My problem is that I see some of them, they're so lazy with naming some of these shows, especially on TLC. So I go to watch Little Women and I think I'm going to see a classic story by Louisa May Alcott, and it's like the little people,
Right, of course, right, definitely. That's right, yeah.
They're fantastic, but it's not what I expected. Can't they come up with a different name?
Right, and then you realize that the little is sort of off its axis, and it's kind of a cartoony little, and you're like, that should have been a clue that maybe this was not a Louisa May Alcott adaptation.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I thought I read, Kate, that you were on the 28th season of Dancing with the Stars?
28th season, yes. Which sounds like we all, that people have been watching. Yeah, it's crazy, but they used to do 2 seasons a year until this past year.
Right, so it's really that. So they did like 13 years.
Yeah. That's it.
Then,
but even that's a lot, though. That's still staggering.
No, it is, because when I heard that, I was like, man, I'm really old. Because I feel like Dancing with the Stars was a couple of years ago. And holy cow, we're past season 28. What am I, 97 years old?
2005. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, okay. But you know what? 2005 feels like it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, actually, that's when The Office started airing, was 2005.
Is that right? Wow.
15th anniversary. Yeah, crazy.
How many episodes did you guys do?
I think 183. So it was on for 9 seasons, and actually first season we only did 6 episodes, so I kept my restaurant job in Beverly Hills. So I was covering my shifts during the week and working my Sunday brunch.
Oh, that's awesome.
You tell Jenk where you worked.
I worked at Kate Manalini on Wilshire and Doheny.
Oh,
Kate's. I was going to say, Kate's. We love Kate's. Yeah.
Yeah. That was actually I think maybe in the first place that Ben took me for dinner in LA with Josh. So that's
probably
awesome.
Right. That sounds right. Yeah.
Could be right. And I probably waited on you. And was there a bitter, aging, redheaded waitress? Wait. Okay.
But no. So I don't remember, and of course not Kate. But you know what? I guess it's possible, right?
It absolutely is possible. I worked there full time. I mean, I was doing some guest star stuff before that, but I was in New York for a few years before that doing off-Broadway, but I I was bi-coastal at one point because I had a restaurant job on both coasts.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you got your book. We got it. There's a title. Something from waitressing has to be in the title for your.
Absolutely. Yeah. Waiting and waiting and waiting. Yes.
Right. Waiting and waiting and waiting. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Waitresses should also have a catchy. I think everybody should have some equivalent of doctor.
Server, like the term server kind of sucks because it's servant.
That's right.
If you work in Beverly Hills, you get treated like a servant sometimes. I'm just saying. Not by you guys. Because I only remember the douchebag, I only remember the douchebags or the great tippers. I don't really remember anybody in between.
And I know you won't name them because you're too classy, but you were treated very poorly by some very famous people, right?
From time to time, yes, I was. Yeah. Yes.
But mostly the famous people were nice, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, but I mean, everybody we waited on was famous there. Everybody was famous. I was talking about the fact that literally there was one time that Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown came in with cameras because they were shooting Being Bobby Brown. And for some reason, I think they gave money to the manager and just walked in, and everyone was freaking out because no one wanted to be on camera. And what's weird is that, Whitney Houston was in The Bodyguard. She was so high. I'm sorry, did I say that? Her bodyguard tried to pick me up, and I basically said, thanks, but no thanks. And he's like, I'm going to wear you down. He's like, I'll be back, and I'm gonna wear you down. I was like, I'm getting threatened by Whitney Houston's bodyguard. Like this.
Well, you guys have been together like 15 years now. I mean, that's you're just so it's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that pickup line.
I love tough love, but no, it's crazy. It's yeah.
I love that line of like, no, I know you're not into me, but I'm gonna wear you down, okay? It's
and
like
the irony is that when I did Dancing with the Stars, we actually did the Viennese Waltz to a Whitney Houston song from the movie The Bodyguard. I'm like, my life is nuts.
and I'm gonna wear you down is I'm gonna hunt you down adjacent.
Right.
So
That's right.
It's very charming.
Yeah. Did you ever wind up working with anyone that was a star that was rude to you when you were a waitress?
You know, a little bit. Not too closely though, thank God. There was a few.
I mean, other than Jane Lynch, obviously.
and you never told them, right?
Oh my God, thank God. Yeah, there were a few male comics that were a little crappy, you know, and then like later on, I you know, worked peripherally with somebody, and I thought, you don't know, you don't remember, but I remember. You're a douchebag. I also remember going to a lot of award shows and seeing the people that I waited on, like a lot of the producers, or you know, that were really tough, awful people, and they didn't even recognize me from the restaurant. So I did not remind them, but I did remember how awful they were.
It must be nice.
Right.
It must have been nice. Oh, we got to go, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Hold that thought for a second. This is the end of one of the episodes, but there are more episodes of Old School. The three of us will stay on. You can always get the full episode if you're a member. tyt.com/join. For everybody who's leaving now, we love you. Catch the next episode of Old School. We're back. New episode of Old School. Kind of. Cenk Uygur, Ben Mankiewicz, Kate Flannery. We were in the season 27 version of Old School. We were talking about Kate's waitressing job before she got the gig at The Office. And by that, I mean the show The Office, not at another office. And how celebrities were oftentimes rude to her. I actually want to find out more. But Ben, did you want to say something?
Yeah, that it must have been really nice when somebody who you waited on saw The Office and was
Right.
like, "Oh my God, that's Kate from Kate Mandolini's." Yeah.
There was a few great people, like J.J. Abrams was really excited for me. Like I remember seeing him at the Emmys, and then he eventually directed an episode. But he was like, "Oh my God, you are a waitress!" Because he and his writers used to come in, and they would write Alias. Like on a Monday night, they would come in and just like, they wouldn't eat a lot, but they'd be sitting there and they had headphones. They'd be communicating. It was really wild. Like it was interesting watching his process.
Kate Mandolini, one of the few restaurants that it was open till what, like 2 a.m. I mean, you could eat a real meal at midnight, which is for people who don't live in LA is surprising to learn that is hard to do.
Yes, yeah, especially at a decent
a decent place.
Yeah. That was part of its charm. And then, you know, we had to be there super early the morning that they would announce the Academy Awards because the nominees, because we were so close to the Academy. So they would come over. We'd have to be there by 5:30 because they'd come over for Bloody Marys right after, and kind of celebrate.
That's fun. That's only fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when Ben and I went there now 19 years ago, that must have been quite a moment for you because you said everyone who went there is famous, and you would have been like, "Oh my God, guys, 2 people just walked in, not at all famous." It happened.
Finally, it happened. Yeah. Hey, look, guys, tourists. Yeah.
Well, there'd be weird combinations of stars at any given moment, and it was never lost on me. I used to write it down. Like there would be, you know, like Robert De Niro was there, but also, you know, Howard Morris, who played Ernest T. Bass on Andy Griffith, having lunch with LeBeau from Hogan's Heroes, you know, things like that, where you're like, just bizarre combinations of people, just crazy. Jeff Conaway from Taxi, and, you know.
What was LeBeau's name? Do you remember? Because I can't recall. Because Ivan, we just did I guess a couple months ago on TCM, we had a couple of days anyway of underappreciated African-American stars. And one of them was Ivan Dixon, who was a really good actor. And in fact, when I watched Hogan's Heroes, at least when I was an adult, the few episodes I've seen, he really stood out. He's just, except for Bob Crane was a good actor, but Ivan Dixon, who played Kinch, the black guy, the radio man, you could just see that, like, this guy's bigger. Right, he has a bigger presence.
We're going on than this, yeah.
Right, and he's a wonderful actor with some really good roles. But you know, I don't want to go too far and too serious. But he largely didn't make. He became a television director. He had a very nice career. But he, you know, he's really handsome, and today would obviously been a very successful leading man.
Right.
But Hollywood was like, no, we have Sidney Poitier. We can't have two.
Well, it's enough.
What do you, one's plenty, right? Yeah. So he ends up I mean, obviously getting Hogan's Heroes was great. It was kind of a breakthrough that Hogan's Heroes cast him. But anyway, Hogan's Heroes, though, filled with talented people. You know, Richard Dawson's on there, and LeBeau was good too. I wish I could remember his name.
It's Robert Clary.
Robert Clary, that's right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. By the way, same exact thing happened to me with talk show hosts. They're like, we already have one. It's Dr. Oz. So sorry, Jenk. And
that door is closed. Yep.
Yeah. So man, I know how that guy feels. I really do. I feel for him right there.
Yeah. It was really hard for me with Jews.
I mean, maybe I laughed a little too hard at that.
Yeah. Hey, not cool. Not cool. Yeah.
All right.
That's why we're in this business. We're all trying to get something we never got as children. Am I right?
That's right. Totally. That's right. Yeah.
So, Kate, give me just one story. Again, I don't care about the names at all, but like one story of somebody being rude to you or doing something really bizarre when you were a waitress.
Somebody yelled in my face and almost touched my shoulders, which is kind of weird because we didn't serve pancakes after 4:00, and they insisted that they knew the owners, and then if the owners knew that they were there, that someone would make the pancakes. So yeah, that was.
Okay, first of all, I see what you did there. Touched my shoulders. So classy way of not saying it's Joe Biden, but letting us all know it's Joe Biden. Okay. And he touched my shoulders, stroked my hair, and whispered into my ear, the owners know me and they would make the pancake for me. I got it. I know who it is.
Was not in Beverly Hills. I went on actually, I put cheese on Monica Lewinsky's pasta, but I was not near Joe Biden at the restaurant. I have to say that. I did wait on Monica Lewinsky probably back in like 1998.
So she's you know who she is at that point. I mean, obviously.
Yes, she was. I mean, all eyes were like, you know, what the hell? Yeah, she was extremely well known at the time.
Right. For folks who don't know, she grew up in Beverly Hills and went to Beverly Hills High School, and so she was back home visiting her parents. Presumably, goes into the restaurant.
Yes. And I remember OJ's grown kids used to come in all the time too. He came in like before I started, because it had already happened, all that had already happened, but his older kids would come in.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he used to come in before he killed people.
I think he did. Yes.
Didn't kill people. He was acquitted. Therefore, he didn't do it. Yeah. That's how it works, guys. What was I going to say? It was so amusing. Never mind.
Okay. So, let's talk about what we do during coronavirus a little bit. By the way, like I would love to get pancakes after 4:00. Yeah. But I don't think I would ever say, if the owners were here, you'd be making me pancakes.
Yeah, but that reminds me of what I was going to say, Jank, because I'm sure you've told it before, but one of the, and leave out all the serious accusations and, about regarding Vice President Biden, but you and I met him at the same time, I think, right? Or maybe you had met him once before.
No, I met him once before, but we saw him together. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw him together, and it was back in, I think, 2003, right? Maybe the beginning. It was sometime in 2003, and it was 2004. Early 2004 was a left-wing liberal talk show host convention in D.C. It was discouraging as to the future of liberal talk radio. But Cenk and I were there, and Biden came and gave a talk, and he was incredibly impressive talking about Iraq. I mean, he was just very facile about Iraq in a way that we were certainly not hearing from the president at the time, or really anybody. And but I recall, and I'm sure I'm blending stories here, but Cenk, don't really correct me. But so because Biden, he touched everybody, right? I mean, he was not just touching women. And I have this image of Joe Biden with both of his forearms on your shoulders, leaning in where you guys are almost touching heads, and he's talking to you about Iraq, and you guys are engaged, and he is like all over you. And I was standing, 2 feet away listening.
Yeah, no, the only part of that story that's wrong is he was talking to me about pancakes.
All right, well, I'm close. That's right.
Very passionate guy.
Yeah, he's like, let me tell you something. Pancakes? Why not after 4:00? Why not? Okay. So no, I've met Biden twice, and it's true. He is a very, very close talker. I mean, he's in almost a character out of Seinfeld. He's not a soft talker, but he's a close talker. And I've told this story a couple of times. The first time I met him was at the Penn bookstore. I was a freshman going in for the first time, and I see this tall guy, older guy, that is looking around, hoping to get recognized. Okay, no joke, definitely. And he's got his head on a swivel. Is anybody going to recognize me, right? And I, of course, I'm a political junkie. I'm 18 years old, but I grew up watching McLaughlin Report and Meet the Press. And I thought This Week with David Brinkley was the coolest thing on television. So I make a beehive for him immediately. And I'm like, Senator Biden, great to see you here. And he's like, you could tell his face like, yes, right? And then he leans into me, takes me by the shoulders, and he goes, Cenk, the Commons, where you get the food, pancakes. Okay. Now, but in all seriousness, and I realized later that obviously Beau Biden went to Penn, but like decades later, I realized Beau Biden went to Penn. I knew Biden's son was going to Penn because I met Biden on like my first day, but the incurious ass that I am, I never once asked in 4 years, hey, anybody know who Senator Biden's son is? And I mean,
you were Cenk, when he was at Penn, Kate, you should know he held a pro-first Iraq War rally. Pro-war rally. You don't see a lot of those on college campuses. So I'm not sure Cenk and Beau would have been fast friends. Right. But at least the pro-war guy went on to serve his country in Iraq, like Beau.
As it turned out.
As it would happen.
Drinking at Penn, because I'm from Philly, and I went to college at the University of the Arts in Philly. So I know all those bars, dude.
Yeah.
Joe's, Pagano's.
And I just want to say, in case anybody thinks that Cenk is being too tough on Biden with the looking around, waiting for somebody to recognize him, I just want to point out, I won't speak for Kate here, but there aren't two people who have walked into more rooms and looked around hoping that somebody would recognize him, who are more familiar with that than me and Cenk. Right? We're experts in walking into a room and being like, come on. Please.
Anybody?
Anybody? At all? Someone, please?
No one watches YouTube in this room. No one.
See, this is the problem with the face masks happening right now. There's very little recognition.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's I had my first face mask recognition yesterday.
Hey.
I had to go to Hollywood briefly, and which was a strange experience to see Hollywood like that, right in front of the old Grauman's Chinese Theater, and my family came. We were only out for a very brief period of time, and we were masked up, of course. And we walked into to get something to eat for our daughter, and we were going to eat too. And it was a Baja Fresh. And I mean, I walk into Baja Fresh, and a guy goes, "Hey, Ben Mankiewicz, I just mailed you a letter today."
Oh my God, I got a letter for you, Ben. Swear to God, I don't know why people do this every once in a while. They will.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I don't know how they know my address, let alone the fact that they confuse it for your address. And I got a letter for Ben Mankiewicz, and of course I opened and read it, which I'm pretty sure is illegal.
Naturally, it's all right. Yeah.
And this guy wrote you a letter.
Was it a guy who wanted me to come see an academy?
No, his name was not Khan. So no, it was a guy named Jimmy. Right. But it's right there. I'll grab it for you in a second. Yeah. But actually this, and Kate, this happens from time to time. It actually happened once, maybe twice, but the one time we talked about on an earlier old school where a guy came up to me and started telling, thought I was Ben, and started telling me what a jerk his co-host Cenk Uygur is. So that was fun. That was a fun moment.
That's tough.
Yeah. And my screen seems to have frozen in an inopportune time there.
Yeah, it's not your best look. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong. There you are. Now you're back.
You're back.
Okay. All right. So here, I'll throw random quick stories at you guys. So my son today is homeschooling, as we talked about in the beginning of one of the episodes of Old School.
I think let's go with remote learning.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, and technically they're not homeschooled. They Zoom in with their teachers in the morning, afternoon. Yeah. But instead of having to check their homework, I now have to check all of their work. Right. And so it's a giant pain in the ass. Yeah. And so Dr. Oz and I were talking about it, and we thought, why not send him back to school? Anyway, so my son today says, "Okay, Baba, I made a schedule for my work." And I was like, "Ooh, I like this." Okay, he's 9 years old, and I said, "Okay, according to your schedule, when do you finish home or all of your work?" He's like, 4:15. And I was like, "Okay, I really like how specific this is. This is well thought out. He might actually do his homework for the first time if he, if he keeps going in this direction." And so I see him after one of the shows at 5:15, and I say, "Hey, Pro, it's past 4:15. So what's up? Did you get it done?" And he's like, "Nah, I forgot to count lunch. I forgot about lunch." And he's like, "And I forgot about distractions."
Distractions. You got to factor that in.
This is a very smart kid, actually. Very articulate. Knowing the problem is halfway there, right? I mean, isn't that closer to the solution if you know what the problem is?
Totally.
My yesterday I had work to do, or maybe it was a couple of days ago. It doesn't matter. My daughter comes up. I've been upstairs doing work, and she comes up and she's like, "Can you come on this walk with me and Mom?" And I was like, I still got work to do. And she goes, "Well, never mind." Right. And I'm like, "No, come on. You got to tell me." She goes, "No, you'll get mad." I'm like, "No." So I get it out of her, and she goes, "Well, Mom and I just thought maybe you were up here and you weren't doing your work, that you were sort of like wasting time, like looking at the computer." And I was like, yeah, ding, ding, ding. Yeah. Yeah, I factor distracting time into my work time. Like, that's just, I'm going up here for 3 hours. I got about 41 minutes of work to do. Fingers crossed whether I can get this done. Yeah.
See, that's a veteran. That's a veteran.
That's right. Oddly enough, I'm a pro.
Yeah, that's right. He's like, he knows if you got 41 minutes of work, it's 3 hours. I mean,
it's 3 hours right there. Yeah. On a good day.
Yeah.
Oh, weird. This is such a weird time. Oh my gosh. It's just nuts.
Yeah, well, this is nuts, but that's true at all times. Right. Right. I don't. Yeah.
So
I mean, but although you read these tweets from people, I mean, clearly people are doing. I mean, Rob Delaney, who's incredibly funny, but I mean, he had an unbelievably great tweet today, like back from once again, already back from my early morning run. I'm crushing it on health. I'm eating right. My wife and I are having sex constantly. Homeschooling. My kids are knocking it out of the park. How are you doing? Yeah.
It just that he speaks for all of us.
He speaks for all of us. That's right. Yeah.
It really resonates. It resonates. That's why. Rings true.
You're gonna love this time, though. You know that, right? Your kids are gonna remember this time. I think, right?
Yeah.
I think so. Right. Yeah.
This is a bonus for them. Yeah.
Yeah. I just hope they don't remember the second wave.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, let's hope not. No, my kids are having fun. They're iPad, TV, Netflix, Nintendo Switch. It's like a nonstop carnival in here. Minus
they can do whatever they want. They can literally touch you whenever they want. Right? They can reach out and you're there.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, my daughter and I, we're throwing footballs and jumping on the couch, and we put up a little basketball hoop, and she was hitting these soft, squishy rubber balls with a miniature golf club, like a baseball bat. I mean, all those things, I'm not sure they would have happened, or they would have happened at some point, but they would have snuck into a weekend here and there, a weekend that I'm not working. So it's been good. That part's been really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, totally. My son and I have been playing football in the front yard, tiny little front yard, but we made a field out of it. And we're in the playoffs. We both made the playoffs, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah. Way to go, Coach. Yeah.
Yeah, I just won the AFC. I'm in the Super Bowl. He's going to try to, get in through the NFC. Let's see how he does. And we do it every day, so it's awesome. And there's a lot of things that I'm doing that I wouldn't normally do. And like Ben, excuse me. Now, every time anybody sneezes in the house, my kids are like, coronavirus. I'm like, no.
Oh, no.
Okay. Anyway, so like Ben, I travel a lot for work. So I'm home less. Now I'm home more. So I'm out of excuses. So we all got to clean on the weekend. So we all took, different chores. And I jumped out early in the draft and took a bunch of hard ones, hoping to avoid vacuuming. So
strategic.
Yeah, I went. Dishwasher was a mess. I went dishes everywhere in the sink. I went dishwashing. I went. No, that's about it. But that was a hell of a thing. No, I take out the garbage. That's kind of let's keep up. But
right, totally.
Yeah, and my son is trying to avoid all the things, and then he gets stuck with the toilets. And I was like, I knew it. You gotta go big early so you don't get stuck with bathrooms and vacuuming. But at the end, my wife gave me the vacuuming anyway, and which I should have known better. Oh no!
What kind of a madman has a 9-year-old clean the toilets?
I'm gonna say that's a lot.
That is not a 9-year-old's job. And if you'll excuse this, your toilets. I mean, this is a catastrophic job to give to a 9-year-old.
But did I accidentally just reveal that?
Yeah, I mean, my God.
By the way,
I called the state. Yeah.
I think I'm kidding around. I said toilets, bathrums, but I don't think bathrooms, toilets. I think
better.
Yeah. Lord.
Well, I could say my boyfriend's son is he's 18 and he is basically staying up all night long. We only see him at dinner. He sleeps all day. So he's with his friends on the phone and just online playing with them. So I think he's created some autonomy for himself. So we just see him at dinner.
Right. Yeah.
I think my boyfriend he wishes it were different, but he knows he's getting a good deal.
That's right. Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
For everybody. The kid's a genius.
So we got to wrap this kind of episode. For the members, you're going to get to hear the end of the vacuuming story and how I turned into an American hero.
Such a good tease.
TYT.com/join to get the whole episode. For everybody watching this now, bless your heart. We'll see you next time. And we're back.
Thanks.
Okay, so the end of the story is, I started vacuuming, and my wife gave me. There was long negotiations, and somehow I wound up getting almost all of the carpeting and rugs. Our room, the corridor, Joy's room, and all the rugs downstairs, like basically everything but Pro's room. And so, and I'm doing it, and halfway through, I realized I hadn't yet complained. And
Hero.
I thought, I mean, would a hero vacuum without complaining? I guess. I don't know. It's not for me to say. I don't want to call myself a hero. But hashtag would a hero do this without complaining? And then I saw a secondary rug that my wife had not assigned to me. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for it.
What's a secondary rug? Is it like not on the floor?
Yeah, I'm on the wall. Okay. No, she had forgotten there's another smaller rug as you're going to the backyard.
No.
So it had been left unassigned to anyone. But
so you vacuumed a rug so small that your wife forgot it. And you think that adds to your heroism? Like, I'm going to guess vacuuming that rug took what, 20 seconds?
No, look, the thing is, I have slight OCD, which I don't know if you could have slight OCD, but if you can, I have it. So whatever I do, I do kind of meticulously. So that took me at least 90 seconds.
I like that you have slight OCD and like you do it kind of meticulously, you know? Yeah, I think that's just C.
Yeah, there's no O there.
Yeah,
you're right, and not much of a D. That's true.
There's not much of it. Definitely not a D. It's just an O, actually, really. It's just an order. Yeah. I like the idea that you didn't do Pro's room because he was lying in the fetal position on his carpet after cleaning the toilet, you know?
We need another hero. We really don't. It's like the song goes.
So as I'm doing the smaller carpet voluntarily,
wow,
I thought not only hashtag what a hero, but I was like, man, no, I concluded, first of all, there's no more question. This is what a hero would do. And I thought to myself, swear to God, like out of a movie.
So we'd get the music building just as you walk past that carpet, you're putting the vacuum cleaner away, and then you spy it out of the corner of your eye. Wait a minute. That's another rug, and that rug needs to be vacuumed.
Look, is that what hero movies are about? I don't want to say. It's not for me to say.
Kate, you're from Philly. That's like Rocky IX right there. Yeah.
Always works for me. The theme of Rocky always works for me. Yes.
Yeah.
He's a hero. He's a hero. He's not from Philadelphia, and he didn't even have a Philly accent, but he somehow is the most famous Philadelphian ever.
Right. I was thinking more Iron Man, but I hear you guys. I hear you.
Right. Well, either one. They both work. The last 3 weeks during this, Cenk has told hero stories, and they're all. Kate, you should know they're all like that. Last week's he was a hero because he finished the last of the mayonnaise, and then only at the end was he able to fill the bewildered audience in that his wife hates having just a little bit of a condiment left. So his heroism was wrapping up the last of mayonnaise and then throwing the jar away. Yeah.
Okay. It sounds like you're underselling it.
Oh, it does? How could that be? Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, I did it again this morning. I ate the last of like these tiny little empanada type of Turkish empanada type of things that my mom had made for me. There was one left over. And again, Wendy hates when there's just a little bit left over. And this morning I ate it at breakfast and looked at her like, hashtag.
Yep.
What a hero.
You're welcome, honey.
Yeah.
Baby. That's very sweet.
I mean, every week you just think, man, she is a lucky, lucky woman.
She's like Lois Lane. If
Yeah.
it happens, right?
Right. Is that guy ever home? Does he pay any attention to you? No, you don't understand, she says to her friends. He finished the empanadas. Yeah.
And the mayo.
And the mayo. Like, this is sort of my dream man.
Yeah, normally he would have left him around for 2 weeks. But you know what? During coronavirus, he's been amazing. He finished it up the next day. His own delicious food.
You know, our next door neighbor made us, Tim, our next door neighbor made a great deal of split pea soup. And he brought us some. He's a very nice guy, and we get along with him. Well, he brought us some split pea soup. And my wife had a bowl last night. I had a bowl. We didn't eat at the same time just because of our daughter, but we were all together. And I ate it a couple hours later, and she served it to me. And I was like, this is the best split pea soup I've ever had. It was just phenomenal, this homemade split pea soup from our neighbor. And I noticed today that there was like this much left in a jar. And I thought that's worse than having none left. It's really not enough. It is really not enough. So I might have whatever I might have what you might need to come over to break protocol just to finish the pea soup.
No, but part of the reason that I leave it is because I'm already full. And it's going to make an extra awesome snack the next day. So it happened last night with the corn muffin too. Oh, forgot that I was a hero about finishing the corn muffin at breakfast too. Oh my God. All right. I got a reminder as soon as this is over.
The producer of this show, executive producer, is Judith, Kate, of course, your friend. You know Judith. And I'm just guessing, however dumb way she described this show, she did not do it justice.
She didn't mention the mayo.
You should mention the mayo or the corn muffins or the empanadas. Yeah, or the vacuuming. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the heroism.
That's right.
Growing up in a big family, if you ate you had to leave a little, because if you were the last person to eat it, you'd get in trouble. Like everyone would give you a side eye, the stink eye. So we always had just that little bit left of everything.
Like there's like one donut left, somebody cuts it in half, eats that, and then somebody cuts the half in half, and there's a quarter left, and there's finally like a 1/16 of a donut left, but nobody will finish it.
1/16 of a scoop of ice, of a spoonful of ice cream, just like
that's right.
So shitty. You pick it up and you're like, it's so light. Oh God.
Yeah. No. And I probably got it from culturally too, from my mom and uncle. Same kind of thing, but in Turkey, it's very offensive to eat the last bite.
Right.
So, right. And so my uncle, once there's like 7 bites left, he's like, better safe than sorry. And he's
out. Right.
Right.
Right. And my mom would.
Not a dangerous road.
That's right.
Don't go there. Yeah.
And under penalty of law, my mom would not eat the last bite. And so we've got a mismatch here where it drives my wife crazy if there's a last bite left, and it drives the rest of us crazy if there isn't.
Wow.
The Kate and Jack, you guys probably had this. We had this saying in our house, the acronym, which I'm sure others had, of FHB, right, which stood for Family Hold Back.
True.
And every time we'd have people over, I mean, like every time, Mom would sort of whisper in my ear, FHB, FHB, right? And I always was like, first of all, it was just incredibly irritating, right? Because you're hungry and there's food and you cannot eat it. And invariably at the end of the night, there'd be 1/3 of whatever she made left, tons of the food left, 2/3, whatever she made left. And I always thought, my God, woman, just make more. Like, because we get the family hold back, it's like 7:06. They're not even all here yet. Like, how can we hold back? Just get another chicken. You knew they were coming.
So in Turkish, there's this word that terrorizes all young Turkish kids. It's ayıp. And ayıp means to give offense. And it's the worst thing you could do in Turkish culture, is to give offense. And so if people are coming over to your house, we didn't have FHB or anything sophisticated like that. It was just super ayıp to eat the food because it's for the guests, okay? But if we went to someone else's house, it was also ayup to eat the food. What are you doing? Like some sort of monster coming in out of the woods and you're just eating everybody's food? Ayup, right? And it literally traumatizes all Turkish kids, and it traumatized me. So like I'm like always worried that I'm giving offense to people. I mean, it's kind of ironic given that I offend people nonstop on the show, but like in my personal life, I'm very careful not to offend people because I have my mom's words ringing in the back of my head. Ayup, ayup, ayup.
I've not been offended yet, just so you know. You're doing great.
Okay, good. Thank you, Kate.
You're not doing great. Maybe you should be offending me. Isn't that better viewing? I don't know.
Yeah.
Cenk, every time Cenk and I would get together to watch a game or something, anytime during the day or even when we were playing cards more regularly at night, Cenk would always show up with food for Cenk, and it was never rude. And if he had, and if you'd said, "Hey, would you pick me up a sandwich?" he would. He'd get a sandwich for everybody, and and he wouldn't really care if you paid him. He's an incredibly generous guy. But I now see like what you were doing. Like, I don't want to come and eat somebody else's food or worry about eating somebody else's food. I got this food. I'm going to come. I got friends here. I'm just going to eat it, and that's it. And I'm out. I don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, that's right. And so, but then ironically, sometimes people would take offense because I'd come in with my own food and
totally, that's right.
For anyone else.
You
we'd all be.
You can't win.
I know. No, Jay, tell me about it. From day one, can't win either way.
This is why you're in show business. Just saying.
Am I?
All about inner struggles is we bring it all to this business.
Yeah, that's true.
Rejection, everything, right?
Yeah.
Since the rejection, the acceptance, the rejection, rejection.
Let me try to deliver on what you asked for, which is to give you offense. So you're Irish.
Yep.
So how many siblings do you have? Over under is 13.
Five sisters and one brother. There's 7 of us. My dad owned a bar. Come on, stereotype central. Come on, if you can't type stereotype, I am like a walking stereotype. I was born a bar owner's daughter. My grandfather was a bar owner as well. My brother,
Yeah, your name's Flannery, for crying out loud.
Flannery's Tavern. So they were up all night thinking of that title, right?
So wait, what was the name of the bar?
Flannery's Tavern.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Of course it was.
Of course it was, right? And of course, my dad, my dad owned the apartments above the bar, so he always had a lot of like boarders. We didn't live over the bar. We lived in a nice neighborhood. But I remember, like, a lot of these guys, if they couldn't make the rent, he'd let them work it off. So we always had a lot of alcoholics, like putting up a shelf or scraping wallpaper. It was very stereotypical.
That's nice, though. That's nice. I instantly like your dad. Every time you tell a story about your dad, I like your dad.
He's a good guy. Yeah, he's really real deal.
Although, to be fair, if you run a bar, you probably have to be a little tolerant of alcoholics.
Well, but he also had a big heart for them. Like he loved them. He would give them shit sometimes, but he loved them. And my grandfather started this thing that was a very old school bar owner thing where people watch your money too. They cash the bar owner would cash your check. So sometimes if somebody was getting really drunk, my dad wouldn't give them all the money, and then he'd give them to them the next day when they were sober, or he had like so sometimes guys would yell at him, and like then the next day they might thank him because they didn't drink all their paycheck. It's another time. You can't get away with it now.
I love this, Kate. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. You're the best.
How are we gonna start? Did we start? Are we done? This is it?
This is the actual end. Yeah, it's hard to tell, but this is it.
I can do it better. Let's wait.
All right, let's just
Thanks, guys.
Restart. Okay, no. All right.
Be safe. Seriously. I mean.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. We'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Love you guys.
Yeah. All right. Back on the Young Turks. Janky Granick sparing with you guys. We do have a boatload of stories for you guys, as we do in most of the post games in this era of TYT. Thank you for supporting TYT through this. You're all members, so another way that you could help if you want is tyt.com/upgrade, where you can upgrade your membership. That's of tremendous help as well. Speaking of which, let me look at the thermometer here before we get started. We're trying to get to a little over 143, so we can throw that extra $50,000 on there. And right now we're at $142,274. You guys are amazing. tyt.com/go. I think we could probably get there by tonight. So let's see what we can do. Hopefully, have great news for you on tomorrow's show. All right, Anna, take it away.
All right. I want to take a victory lap because I was right about something. And I don't often do this, but I feel like I deserve props. So last week, Nancy Pelosi thought it would be a great idea to put together a video demonstrating that she loves chocolate and that she has a luxurious collection of gourmet ice cream in incredibly expensive refrigerators. Now, I don't care about her wealth. I said that clearly, but what I do care about is the messaging and the optics of showing off your tremendous wealth when 22 million Americans have just filed for unemployment. People are struggling and they're looking to leadership in Congress to do something about it. And as we know, there have been all sorts of issues with the stimulus checks. There have been all sorts of issues with people attempting to file for unemployment. They can't even get through the system. And so the last thing people are going to want to see in a year when a general election is happening is a member of any party bragging about her obsession with chocolate and showing off her amazing kitchen. And so guess what happened? The Trump campaign put together a vicious ad, the kind of ad that I warned you all about, and we should watch it because this is how politics is done, and apparently Democrats forgot.
We turn now to that $350 billion fund to help small businesses and its workers get through the shutdown.
It will be up to Congress to restock it.
But Democrats blocking that move this morning.
They asked for $250 billion in 48 hours. I said, well, I don't think so. They objected, and I congratulate the Senate Democrats.
Speaker Pelosi, what are you going to share with us from your home?
Chocolate candy.
Thousands have been forced to wait for hours at food banks all across the country.
This is chocolate, and then we have some other chocolate here. We just got it restocked with the ice cream.
You don't want to eat up everything all at one time.
I can't do it much longer. I'm trying so hard.
We're, shall we say, enjoying.
Having to admit that, yeah, we're starving, and
I like it better than anything else.
Taping this segment, there are 22 million people out of work.
This specific program is about stopping job losses today.
This is hurting people bad.
Other people in our family look for some other flavors, but
right now it's survival move. You don't know where that next something else is going to come from.
I don't know what I would have done if ice cream were not invented. I just wonder.
Who didn't see that coming?
Like
all these Democratic pundits get paid to be wrong, right? In the news, in the media. I'll give you an example of one of them. Here's Matthew Iglesias. This was his tweet in response to, how do you really not know how politics works? This is incredible to me. His tweet was, are people pretending to be mad at Nancy Pelosi for liking ice cream? No one cares that she likes ice cream. It's just kind of sad that we keep hearing over and over again that the most important thing is to beat Donald Trump, to take back the Senate, do whatever it takes to get these goons out of office. And the way that they think we're going to accomplish that thing is by bullying Bernie Sanders supporters into voting for Joe Biden. The onus is on the very progressive voters that they've been crapping on this entire time. But they never take responsibility for their failures. That right there, what Pelosi did in that video, was a devastating hit on herself. She gave the Trump administration content to attack Democrats on. Okay, and the fact that people don't realize how tone deaf she is, the fact that people like Matthew Iglesias don't understand how bad this is optics wise, blows my mind. He gets paid to fail as a writer, as a pundit, as someone who is supposed to analyze politics. This is your analysis, really?
And look, we're all in our own bubbles, but the establishment looks at that and goes, "That's a total fail on the Republican part." No, she looks wonderful. She has wonderful refrigerators and she has wonderful ice cream. I bet people like her more after seeing that.
That video was in the news on the very day that it was announced that 22 million Americans had filed for unemployment.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not understand how bad that is for the Democratic Party? And look, Nancy Pelosi, luckily there is a challenger, Shahid Buttar. You should definitely check him out. And, you know, I in a dream world, he would get voted, you know, into office and we would get rid of this nonsense. But like, yeah, look, she's stuck in the 2009 politics, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, we're here with all these celebrities and Obama's so cool and everything's great. No, we've moved past that because the economic situation for so many Americans is so devastating that they don't give a damn about Beyonce. Okay, they don't give a damn about which celebrities you're hanging out with. They don't care about like your love for chocolate or gourmet ice cream. They want to know how they're going to provide for their kids and what kind of relief you're going to fight for. And I mean, we've already seen what we've gotten from these stimulus bills.
So look, it's obvious bad optics to us, at least it's obvious. And so what we're trying to do is, hey, can you please swerve away from the iceberg, or in this case, the ice cream? And then they turn around and say, instead of saying, oh, you guys were right, it turned out it was terrible optics, and now they're using it in an ad exactly as you warned about, they say, no, it's your fault for pointing it out in the first place. Like, I wish we were that powerful that the Trump White House is watching TYT nonstop, and they were like, oh, right, the $24,000 fridges and the ice. Well, we hadn't noticed, but now the Young Turks ran it. Now we know. No, they do these. We're trying to help. We're trying to help.
Yeah.
But instead, it's all that's ever done is them blaming us. It's insane. So please, I'm trying to tell you ahead of time. All right, forget the ice cream. Okay, what's done is done. If you're a Democratic leadership, if you're in the corporate Democrats, the ones I don't agree with, let me try to help you ahead of time. Do not wear a sweater like you're about to go yachting on TV because it's not going to play well. So I'm telling you ahead of time. So please don't blame me afterwards, okay? So don't show off your incredibly expensive house. And you can say, hey, I earned it, and my husband did insider trading to get that with the information I gave him. I earned it. Whatever it is, okay? That's what Pelosi's husband did. Anyway, okay, but whatever. Let's say you earned it 100%, and we love you for it, and God bless, and it's God bless America, right? But as a matter of optics or politics, don't say as 22 million people are unemployed right now, don't be like, oh, this is my spectacular house, and let me bring you into the 13th room of my mansion. That's politics 101. I just can't.
No, and I love
the
accusation. I love the accusation that because we cover these stories, which by the way is our job, right? My job isn't to like play cover up for Nancy Pelosi's mistakes. I have no interest in that. And I'm going to do what I think is necessary to inform the audience. And by the way, we do analysis. And my analysis of that video was that it was a disaster. And I was proven right because of that ad that the Trump the Trump campaign put together. But look, to argue that we're the ones who gave the Trump campaign the idea. First of all, I wish we had that kind of power and influence. But secondly, we're talking about people who worked with Cambridge Analytica, violated people's online privacy in order to gather data and use it in a way to benefit Donald Trump and get him elected. You think that he's not employing like these people who are going to do anything and everything it takes to get him back, like to get him reelected? Like, what are you guys talking about? Just take some personal responsibility, or more importantly, direct, some of your criticism toward the people who claim that the most important thing to do is to get Trump out of office. They don't act like it. They just don't. They're so out of touch and so tone deaf, and that's on them. That's not on us.
No, and last thing, which one is it? Is it that there's nothing wrong with what Pelosi did and that ad is completely ineffective? Or it's progressives' fault for pointing out something that turned into a devastating ad? Which one is it? So if you think it's no big deal and that the American people love to see her $24,000 freezers and her designer ice cream, then great. You should be happy with that Trump ad. You should think, oh my God, I bet that helps Democrats get reelected. Okay, great. Go for it. But you're killing us and you're going to help Trump get reelected. And now that we're warning you about that, I hope you don't say, oh my God, Trump hadn't thought of getting reelected until the Young Turks said it. And now he's going to go ahead and get reelected because the Young Turks put that idea in his head. We're trying to help, but if you don't want the help, there's nothing we can do about it.
All right, well, let's move on to unbelievable statements on Fox and Friends recently. So Donald Trump has threatened to suspend certain forms of immigration into the country. We already know that there are travel bans for most countries as a result of the pandemic. And now there's some news indicating that he will put a hold on all green card applications for the next 60 days. Now, one person who's concerned about this, believe it or not, is Ainsley Earhart from Fox and Friends. And she explains why in this next clip.
You were talking about the farmers, and farmers here, many of them are here on work visas. Many families here, including mine, we have au pairs, and we rely on them. I go to work at 3 o'clock in the morning, so I need her there, and I need her in my house so that she can help me with my daughter. So many families rely on childcare from other countries. These au pairs come here on work visas. They have to go back to their country to get the visas renewed, and we've been talking in my house about how that's going to happen. So these are all things, these are questions that we have that hopefully the president will roll out a plan and we'll all be informed on how this is going to affect all of our lives.
I love that. That's my favorite. So
immigrants are great when I get to take advantage of them, right?
I do declare, I really abhor immigrants, really, and we've got to build a wall, really. It's got to be spectacular. But not my au pair. Of course, my au pair should be brought back in. And so, I mean, how will I take care of the children without the au pairs flying in from other countries? Shall I use local help? Oh, American babysitters? I think not. So, President Trump, while you're demagoguing and creating fear and hatred towards immigrants, please continue to do that because that pays my salary here at Fox News. But obviously carve out an exception for things that personally affect us, like my beloved au pair that I got from some other country, apparently. Oh, what a compelling case. Thank you, Ainsley. We appreciate it.
So I didn't even know what an au pair was until today. And I don't know what the reasoning is when it comes to like bringing in foreign workers to help you raise your kids. Because there are plenty of people here who can help you with that. But whatever, it doesn't even matter. That's her decision to make. But it is amazing how they do want to carve out those exceptions when it comes to foreign workers who benefit them and their lifestyles. So in the case of Donald Trump, one of the first things he did when he was elected and inaugurated was increase the cap for the number of foreign workers who could come into the country. And then Trump properties applied for more foreign workers. So all of the demagoguing you hear is meant to help Donald Trump politically, but when it comes to his actual actions and what he's done in practice, he loves foreign workers, just like Ainsley Earhart loves, foreign au pair. Are they only au pairs if they're foreign workers?
I'm pretty sure otherwise you're not allowed to say that frou-frou word. You have to use a normal word like babysitter or nanny. But if they're foreigners, they're au pairs.
Yeah.
Okay, they made fun of Barack Obama's Dijon mustard. Are you kidding me? Okay, I'll take Dijon over au pairs any day. And by the way, they're now running the ad against Nancy Pelosi and her designer ice cream. Let's not forget that Donald Trump sits on gold toilets. I mean, he brags about how everything in his house is golden. And now at least he has enough sense not to do an ad about that or not to do a segment about that for now. But when you look at the conservatives, there's a couple of defining characteristics. One is, I don't give a damn about you, but if it happens to me, it's important. So there's a perfect example of that. Now, me, as a progressive, do I care if you have an au pair? No. Live your life. I don't care. I don't care where you got your babysitter. Why is it my business? It's not my business at all. So I have no actual problem with au pairs. I have a problem with conservatives who go, well, all the immigrants should be banned, except the ones that affect my life. I should get to keep those. And then, secondly, I love this au pair exemption that Ainsley Earhart wants. And I hope that Trump tries to put that in this new immigrant ban. Now, remember, everybody, I got a great ban. We're going to ban all immigrants, except au pairs. All my donors need their au pairs. And everybody on Fox, all the anchors that make multi-million-dollar salaries because of me and how much we hate immigrants. Now, remember, one other exemption is for wives. I got most of my wives are from immigrants. And they were originally au pairs or models or whatever they were. And my fourth and fifth wife will also be au pairs. So that's exemption. Go for it. Put that in. See how it turns out.
It's amazing. All right. One more story for you. It's rare that Donald Trump gets into public spats with Republicans, but that's definitely the case when it comes to the governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan. So earlier, Donald Trump had claimed that the states are completely prepared to take on coronavirus testing on their own, that it's their responsibility, and that the federal government has done its part. And Larry Hogan disagreed with that. They're still having a difficult time getting the widespread testing necessary in order to get a handle on coronavirus. Well, I want to go to this video because Trump has already hit back.
Today, Vice President Pence spoke with governors from all 50 states about our unified effort to defeat the virus. He had a great call. It was a great call, very positive in, I'd say, every way. Prior to the call, we provided each governor with a list of the names, addresses, and phone numbers of the labs where they can find additional testing capacity within their states. Many, many labs. We're providing you with a list. We'll show it to you now. If you need it, we'll give you the details. But hundreds and hundreds of labs are ready, willing, and able. Some of the governors, like, as an example, the governor from Maryland didn't really understand the list. He didn't understand too much about what was going on. So now I think he'll be able to do that. It's pretty simple. But they have tremendous capacity, and we hope to be able to help him out. We'll work with them and work with all of the governors.
So just to be clear, Governor Hogan had to get 500,000 coronavirus tests shipped in from South Korea. So to argue that the federal government has done its part is absolutely ridiculous. He has more for Hogan, but before we get to that, Cenk, did he provide the beautiful tests? The testing is very strong, I hear.
There's lots of labs, many, many labs. Okay.
We provided a list.
Yeah. Look, I'm mixed on this because on the one hand, the way that he strikes back at anyone who criticizes him is so obvious, so absurd. It's filled with insecurity. And this is another Republican that he's hitting. On the other hand, it's fairly effective politics. It makes other politicians cower, because politicians are generally not leaders, they're followers. So, we're going to show you Hogan's response. I don't think it was that strong. And people are afraid of him. I wish that there was someone on the left who could do it without bringing the circus into town and could effectively apply pressure to get progressive priorities. But unfortunately, that doesn't exist. Instead, we have this guy doing it in the most unsophisticated way you can imagine. But still, even as a blunt instrument, I got to be honest with you, it does often work.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, look, Justin Amash, for instance, is probably the only current lawmaker who spoke out against Trump. And that was after reading the Mueller report, right? So for all the Republicans who are helping cover up for Trump, Justin Amash actually sat down, and he's one of the most conservative lawmakers, right? He's part of that conservative caucus that doesn't think conservatives go far enough in Congress. But he had to expel himself from the Republican Party, and he's now an independent because you just cannot speak out against Donald Trump as a Republican lawmaker without Trump attacking you, his supporters coming after you, and, threatening the future of your political career. So I do give Amash credit for speaking out. And you're right about Hogan. But before we get to that video, there's one more clip of Donald Trump hitting Hogan during his press conference.
Governor Hogan, he didn't really know. It was very obvious to any of those listening on the call today, even though you weren't supposed to be on it. I'm sure that some of you were, or representatives were. He really didn't know about the federal laboratories. We've done a really good job in testing.
They've done a horrible job in testing. Horrible job in testing. We still do not have widespread testing available, which is why Trump repeatedly says that it's up to the governors to get the tests on their own. And that's what Hogan did. He had to get them from South Korea.
Yeah, look, the other thing that's not true is Hogan didn't know about the federal labs. That's absurd. Of course he knew about the federal labs. He's not an idiot like you. In fact, he's been asking to use the federal labs for all this time. And until now, they weren't able to. That's what changed in that call. That's why Hogan thought the call actually went well. But of course, Trump hit him afterwards, not because of anything that happened in the call, but because Hogan had the temerity to say that there wasn't enough testing a couple of days ago on television.
So now let's hear from Hogan.
Response to the president, and what was it that he's suggesting you didn't understand?
I'm really not sure, Sandra. It was a great call we had yesterday with the vice president. I thanked and praised the vice president and the president's team for all the progress that they had been making. I thanked them for what they were doing with respect to swabs and ramping up testing and PPE. It was a completely positive call. They put out a list of the labs that are in our state and said, these are your state labs. You should be utilizing them. We already knew where the state labs were in our state, but the list that they gave us was mostly federal labs, which we've been attempting to use for more than a month now. So we got a commitment yesterday from the vice president and from the president that we can now use federal labs, which is terrific. But the president was not on the call, and somehow I think he got confused in the press conference. I'm really not sure what he was upset about.
Even that like weak response, I think, is going to make him a target for Trump. Like, Trump's going to keep hitting at him, especially the part where he accuses Trump of being confused.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a snide comment, which I would have enjoyed, or if he was just trying to come up with any plausible reason for the disagreement between himself and Trump. But that looks sniveling to me overall, that appearance. That was a great call. I kept thanking him. I kept thanking the vice president. The swabs. They gave us the swabs. I'm so sorry. Remember, he's not on CNN. He's on Fox News. So on Fox, he's like, I agree with the president. I agree with the president. Look, this is a guy I gave credit to a couple of days ago, not just because he criticized Trump correctly and he was right on the facts, but because he has been fighting really hard to do the best for his state. So we give credit where credit is due. And that credit is not erased because he had this appearance on Fox News. The most important thing is, what do you actually do on your job? But look at what I told you guys. Trump bullies these guys, and it largely works. So he goes on Fox and goes, Trump deserves credit. Pence deserves credit. They're great. And I thank them profusely, et cetera, because he's scared. He's scared. So, you know, as this is one of the rare things that Trump does right. Yes, it's bullying. Yes, it's, you know, completely unsophisticated. But in politics, this is hardball. And Democrats do play it against progressives. They never, ever play it against Republicans. And Trump does it against other Republicans. He does it against Democrats. And he does it to, unfortunately, good effect.
Definitely.
And I want to be clear, good effect in terms of policy. There's been nothing but a disaster in handling coronavirus. Only good effect in terms of electoral politics and his ability to get what he wants politically. He couldn't manage an actual crisis if his life depended on it. It's all optics for him. And on the optics front, it helps him, but not in any real way in terms of substance.
Agreed, definitely. All right, so that's what I have for you guys.
Yeah, I wanted to add one thing to the Ainsley Earhart story, Anna. They also don't know how out of touch they are. They just, and anyway, like,
she's probably thinking, go ahead, sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. No, to her, when she thought of that point, she thought it was a good point, and she thought, well, if I tell the audience about my au pair, they'll relate to me, and they'll realize, oh, right, we got to do an exception for all of our au pairs, as if the people listening to her in Alabama also have au pairs, right? Or even know what au pairs means. But she's so out of touch, as they criticize the Pelosi's of the world for being out of touch, which is true, but they don't realize, no, not everybody has a multi-million-dollar Fox contract and imports their babysitters.
Well, look, considering the demographic that watches Fox News, most of the people watching are well past their childbearing years. So that segment probably just went right over their heads. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, it is out of touch. And she's probably thinking, her internal dialogue is, oh my God, will I have to homeschool my kids like all of these other people? No, I can't do that. I need my au pair. It's amazing.
If I don't bring in a nanny from Belgium or Honduras, how will I survive?
Look, this is maybe wrong to say. And maybe some of you who watch this have a live-in nanny. Ladies, what are you doing? I get it. It's tough to raise kids. And if you're single and you have a nanny and you can afford it, good for you. But if you got a man in the house, what are you doing? No, she can go home after her shift. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
I know. People are going to come at me, but I don't care. Come at me. Okay. And then go read about what Arnold Schwarzenegger did.
Yeah. And by the way, you're not wrong. A lot of those au pairs are younger women from Europe. And I've seen the movie.
No.
I've seen the movie. It doesn't end well. But if you thought Ainsley Earhart was mad about the missing au pairs, wait till you see her husband.
Oh, you know what? I know that she just recently went through a divorce, so maybe she's not concerned about that.
Yeah,
I just remember that.
We're all kidding around. Yeah. And now, in this day and age, you have to clarify every single joke.
No, I'm not kidding. I don't think you should have a live-in nanny.
What's that?
Don't have a live-in nanny. Come on. Are we really gonna pretend I'm not kidding? I wouldn't want it a woman, a strange woman, taking care of my kids all day and then staying in my home while my husband's there. I trust Christian, but people are people, desires of the flesh. We're gonna pretend that doesn't exist. Come on.
Yeah, that's why I will not have a Manny in this house.
Yeah, no Manny for me either. I get it. Fair enough.
Okay. That's why I also decided not to pursue a career in Mannying, because I thought, look, why offer such a temptation for folks?
Right. You're just looking out for their marriages.
That's right.
It's nice of you.
I mean, next thing you know, you got a hero in the house, and who could resist heroes? Okay. Anyway, all right, guys. That's it. We're done. Much love. We'll see you tomorrow.